All right, here it is, another episode of Let There Be Talk. Today is January 20th, and we are in the middle of Thrash January as I decided to do a full tribute to thrash metal. But my man Slagle, I was hanging with him in Vegas, he named it Thrashuary. Anyway, it is Thrash January. Welcome aboard. It's a Monday. I'm finally home from I think it was like a 12 or 13 day run. I was out in, where was I? Bridgeport, Connecticut, and then I flew to Vegas for 14 shows, and I'm finally home. I'm out of the casino cage. Oh my God, I'm breathing real air. I'm drinking green juice. I'm getting some sunlight. Oh my God, it's crazy how fast you can go downhill when you're in a casino for 8 days. It's funny because I'm super happy to be working, so I'm fired up to be working. But then you're also just kind of like, oh my God, I got to get out of here. The crowds were incredible this week. I've got to say, the Comedy Cellar in Vegas at the Rio Hotel has just completely lit fire. The crowds are great. The club is great. I think this is like the 5th time I've done it, and I love doing it, actually. I get a lot of work done. I get to see a lot of fans out there that happen to be in town for stuff. There's a lot of shit going on in town. Tool played. I didn't get to see Tool because when you're in Vegas, all your shows are exactly the same time as everything else going on in Vegas. So you're just kind of fucked. I mean, not really, because I love what I do, but I'm saying it would have been cool to go see Tool. It was like 10 feet away from where I was. And then the McGregor UFC cowboy fight, which was that was comical. That was like an old school Tyson fight. I remember when I was young, Tyson would fight. And I bought one of those black box, those cable black boxes, like for $100, and just watched stuff forever on this box. Allegedly, that's what I did. And because those fights would be like $50, $100, and then Tyson would knock someone out in 3 seconds, and you'd be like, oh my God. So that was a lot like this one. And hey, spoiler alert, McGregor won. If you're fucking sleeping under a rock. Anyway, it is Thrash January. I've enjoyed your emails and all the love for this particular theme for the month. It just kind of hit me pretty organically, and I am really enjoying this and reliving those early days of growing up in the Bay Area and seeing some of the great thrash metal when it was just brand new. I do want to send out my condolences, I don't even know how to, it's just a sad day on top of a great day, which is just, oh God. But Ray Burton, Cliff Burton's father, passed away a few days ago. I guess they announced it last night while I was in Vegas. I saw it. I was just like, ah. Oh. And it's a bummer. It is a bummer, but he did live a fantastic life, 94 years old. He did not sit home on the couch. I followed the Cliff Burton family Instagram, and he would go out to all the cool Metallica events. I saw him at the 30-year anniversary, and he went on stage and gave a speech. He also went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction. He went to lots of Metallica shows, and he loved to see the fans and just talk Cliff. And God, it's just so cool that he was able to do that and keep his son's memory and stories and all the good stuff out there and spreading the word. One great thing with social media, That's so cool, and it's a sad day, but I am very happy that he lived to be 94. That is great, and he lost Cliff so many years ago, and that just had to be just brutal. But he was a strong man, and I didn't know him, but he did put smiles on my face whenever I would see him up on a stage, and he would just tell these great Cliff stories. Okay, let me tell you something, what's going on today. I have been doing this podcast over 8 years now, 512 episodes. I've had some incredible guests, mind-boggling. Guests that I had no idea I would ever get to sit down and talk with, especially in the last couple months. John Mayer, still one of that conversation, still in my heart and my brain. Paul Stanley, all that stuff I don't feel would be possible without the 500 or so guests before these guests. They are the ones that trusted me, took time out of their busy schedules, sat down and talked to me when this podcast was just a spot in the industry, just a little nick. And I thank all the guests because the body of work is what this show's about, that brings on some trust for guests like today. Kirk Hammett is my guest today from Metallica. There is no better guest to have on Thrash January than this man, who is an absolute, complete legend. He is the ground zero of thrash metal, going from Exodus into Metallica and now coming up on 40 years in Metallica. An incredible player, a great human. The guy looks fantastic. He's 57 years old. He looks dynamite. He's got great tone, always has. He's got great taste in guitars and art and architecture, all kinds of stuff. This guy, what I love about sitting down with this guy is he's way more than metal. But he and I, we both love metal like beyond. And to sit down and talk to this man, it was really it was just really mind-boggling. I got to tell you, I'll tell you, it was crazy because I didn't know when it was going to happen. I ran into him at Slayer. I didn't ask him there because it was just like, I'm not going to ask him here. This is just a big thing, and I'll get him one day, I hope. And then a week later, I ran into him again at a friend's place at Maidworn, Blaine Haverson's T-shirt and rock and roll compound. You know Blaine from the show here, if you've listened to my podcast. I ran into him there, and he and I both agreed this was a sign. We run into each other twice in 1 week. We've known each other almost 40 years. And I asked him to do it. He said, I'll do it. And I was like, oh, my God. But I didn't know when I was going to get to do it. He said he's in town for a couple weeks, and he'll let me know. And then he just texted me one day and said, yeah, let's do it tomorrow. And I'm in Vegas. So I immediately just book a flight at 6 a.m. And I'm going to fly out to L.A. for the day. I got to be back in Vegas by 6 o'clock to do the shows. So I booked this early flight. I get over there, and I'm waiting, Southwest, and they cancel my fucking flight. And I'm just like, whoa, God, what am I going to do? I got to be there in like 2 hours. And they go, oh, well, you can get on this other flight to LAX. And I'm like, oh, LAX is a fucking nightmare. Oh, well, I got to do what I got to do. So I get on the LAX flight. We pull out onto the runway and fucking sit on the runway for 40 minutes. They said, oh, LAX has extreme traffic right now. air traffic, so we're going to have to sit here for a little bit. 40 minutes. Now I'm freaking out. Here I am on another plane that hasn't even left yet, and I got to be in L.A. in like an hour and a half. And, oh, man, my adrenaline's going. I'm fucking freaking out. I'm trying to keep my blood pressure down. I'm just trying to keep my health together, and everything gets me going squirrely. So I land, I show up, I get there, and the interview happened, and it was just fucking beautiful, man. Kirk Hammett just giving me 3 hours, not flexing at all, not squirming, nothing, just enjoying a conversation. 2 metalheads from the Bay Area, 2 San Francisco freaks. And I got it, and then I got back to Vegas on time, barely, did the shows, and here we are. Here we are with episode number 513 with a dream guest. When I started this show, this guy was on the dream guest list. Hey, before I do get into the show, I'm sure there's a lot of guitar players, a lot of musicians tuning in right now. You got some aches and pains. Get on some CBD. I'm telling you, I use CBD Lion, the cleanest CBD products on the planet, third-party tested. I use all their topical CBD lotions for my neck, my wrists, my knees, everything. I'm falling apart out there. I'm an old metalhead. I've been in the pit too long. CBDlion.com. Use the code DEAN, D-E-A-N. Get a massive discount. They got tinctures. They've got the topical. They've got the gummies. All this stuff. I use the tinctures to go to sleep. Oh, it's super relaxed mode, or when I'm flying. And then they also have these new bath bombs. Sometimes I like to take a bath. You know what I mean. Bath bombs. Throw them in. 100 milligram CBD bath bomb. I'm really loving this new roll-on CBD topical lotion. Just roll it right on my neck and rock it. CBDlion.com. Use the code DEAN. Do it. Don't sleep on that. Also, I don't know what you got for home protection, but you're at work all day. Thieves know. They're ready to scam. They're ready to break in. I travel. That's why I use Simply Safe Home Security. It's like getting commercial-grade enterprise-level security, but for your own home. Think about the security Fortune 500 companies use. They need to know that the police are on their way to the scene of the crime immediately. I'm telling you, you got to get this in your house. This is exactly the kind of security you get with Simply Safe. That's SIMPLISAFE. Use simplysafe.com/Delray. You'll get a 60-day risk-free trial. There's nothing to lose, man. This is free. 60-day risk-free to protect your house, your valuables. Maybe you got some guitars in there or jewelry or watches or whatever. Simplysafe.com/Delray. With Simply Safe, you get comprehensive protection for your home. Outdoor cameras and doorbell alerts that'll tell you if anybody's approaching your house. Entry, motion, and glass break sensors for the inside of your house. Simply Safe protects your home from fires, water damage, carbon monoxide poisoning, all that stuff. 24/7 monitoring, live security professionals. You can set it up yourself, no tools needed, or they can come out and do it for you. It's only 50 cents a day with no contracts, but you're going to get a 60-day free trial, Del Razors. Do it. Simplysafe.com/Delray. God, that's some good stuff, man. You know, there's some desperate people out there right now, so get on that. All right, let's get back into it right now. Big quick shout out to the Patreoners: Jacob Y, Thomas, Jason Vander Vliet, Luke P, Dave West, Joe Soldezo, and John Walling. Thank you for your brand new Patreon support. Patreon.com/DeanDaleRay. for all your bonus episodes, and also DeanDaleRay.com for your tour dates. Tons of tour dates coming up. I'm out there with Mark Maron. Tons of tour dates with Mark Maron. DeanDaleRay.com. Also, I want to thank Troy Conrad for taking the incredible photos during the Kirk Hammett podcast. And I want to thank Maid Warren and Blaine Haverson and everybody over there for letting us record it there, and have a great day. Here he is right now, the metal god himself from the Bay Area, San Francisco, thrash metal king, Kirk Hammett. All right, here we are. This is insane. When I started this podcast 8 years ago, and I'm on 513 episodes. And when I first started it, I wrote down like 10 dream guests, and you were on the top 5.
All right.
And you are here today. An old friend of mine. I think I've known you maybe almost 40 years.
It's been a long time. I can't even remember. I was trying to remember when we first met each other. It was somewhere around San Francisco or Berkeley or Oakland or wherever, man.
It was definitely like the Stone.
Yeah, most likely. And it was just... It has been so long ago, I can't remember. I can't put my finger on when we first met. It was so funny.
Introduce yourself, my man.
Okay, yes, my name is Kirk Lee Hammett, Scorpio, and I'm here with my friend Dean Del Rey.
Oh, my God, dude. It's so great to have you. I know I was fucking bugging you like crazy this week, but I was like, I must do this interview. And it falls right on my thrash January. As I was in San Fran doing shows during the New Year's, it hit me. I was like, I'm from this Bay Area. I absolutely love this music. It's time to really dig in. And with Death Angel up for a Grammy, I was like, let's do this. And then I run into you twice in 1 month, which is totally, to me, was like, it's meant to happen. First, we're at Slayer, and then we run into each other right here at Maid Warren, where we're doing this podcast in the T-shirt haven.
Yep. Yes. Yeah. It's crazy, man. And when things like that happen... I get a sign. I get a message. It's like, okay, someone's trying to pair us up.
I believe that too.
Yeah.
I totally believe that.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
Yeah, I believe in all that kind of stuff.
I do. And I have all this stuff I want to ask you, but you walk in with... Everyone knows that I am a Les Paul 1959 freak. I always have been.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm the last person to know this.
But I'm saying to people that listen to the show.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And you walk in with Greenie, the Peter Green Les Paul, which if Mark Maron was here, one of my best friends, he would probably lose his fucking mind like I am right now. And I lost my mind on the Gary Rosington one I saw a month ago in Cleveland, and I sent it over to you.
Yep.
But this one is way more crazier.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've told the story a bunch, but how did you get this guitar?
Well, it was really crazy because it really feels like this guitar came to me. I had been in London a couple days when I got a phone call from a friend of mine who's a guitar dealer, and he said, I have a guitar for you to check out. And I said, okay, what's the guitar? And he said, Greenie. And I said, bro, I'm not interested in a guitar with a price tag of $2 million. And he said, nah, it's all poppycock. It's not $2 million. It's not even $1 million. That's all rumor. I was like, okay. Maybe you should bring it over.
Wow.
And he brought it to my hotel room with an amazing amp, which didn't help.
What was the amp?
There's an old Vox that
like
sounded
AC30 or AC15?
Sounded incredible. It had these ghost notes where you're like hearing other notes other than what you're playing. That happens with the like old vintage stuff. And Dean, I had that guitar in my hand for like maybe a minute and a half, and I just knew, bro.
Oh, yeah.
I just friggin' knew I wasn't going to give it back.
Yeah.
I was not going to give it back.
Yeah.
And what blew me away was okay. I plug it in, and I hit a chord, on the bridge pickup. I'm like, yeah, nice and clear, and it cuts. And then I switched to the neck pickup and started playing some lead stuff. I'm like going, oh my God, man. Super, super syrupy, creamy tone. And then I put it in the middle, and this is what makes this guitar so unusual. The fact that the neck pickup is turned around so the screws are facing towards the middle rather than towards the neck. Because it's like that, it creates an out-of-phase sound.
Yeah.
That sounds like a Strat through a 100-watt Marshall.
It's insane.
And I just could not believe it. I could not believe that sound. And I thought, that's not supposed to happen, man. A Les Paul all of a sudden turning into a Strat at a flick of a switch.
Right.
And it was amazing. And I hadn't even come into consideration the fact of who owned it.
Oh, yeah.
And who's played it. I was just blown away by the fact that it was just a super, super musical, incredibly tonally gifted piece of wood, man.
Unbelievable.
There's a term for that. For a 4-letter word, and it's called mojo.
Yeah.
And mojo that's connected to this piece of wood is just out of control.
Nothing they can relic or ever do would ever bring mojo of natural not hundreds, but 50 years of playing.
I don't understand why this particular guitar has so much of it. And when I ponder the fact, I think, well, maybe when this guitar was a part of a tree or something, something good happened or something, maybe the tree was blessed somehow. Maybe the tree saved someone's life or something. I don't know, man, but something happened, and that wood is just different from a lot of other guitars, just like this model. And it's just a miraculous thing.
Yeah.
A truly miraculous thing.
I've seen Joe Bonamassa's collection, and I played a few of them, and he said the same thing that I've said, and a lot of people have said. Look, there was 59s made, and some are complete duds. Just like new guitars. Some are screaming. You go, holy smokes, this one's got magic. And some are duds. But this guitar, let's get into the history of it. It was Peter Green's guitar.
Yep.
Now, did he turn the pickup around himself?
No. What had happened was something happened with the pickup. So he brought it to the Selmer shop, which is in London, and it was a place where they made Selmer amps, and they also sold guitars. There was a guy there who worked in the Selmer store, and his name was Sam Lee, and he was a guitar repairman, and he also was a very accomplished jazz guitar player and gave guitar lessons.
Wow.
This guy was very, very instrumental in that whole scene and very, very influential with guys like Jimmy Page.
Yeah, Jimmy
Eric
Page
Clapton,
used to Selmer
John
amp.
McLaughlin, Peter Green, Jeff Beck. All these guys knew about Sam Lee, and I believe that Sam Lee gave guitar lessons to John McLaughlin and to Jimmy Page at one point.
Wow.
And so Sam Lee didn't really understand just how pickups operated. And so when Peter Green took the guitar to Sam Lee, he just kind of just winged it, fixed the pickup. And when he put it back in, with the screws facing the other way, the wrong
upside
way.
down, basically.
Yeah, basically upside down. And so when Peter Green got the guitar back and ran through, just to check it to see if it worked, he liked what he was hearing. He loved that out of phase sound and just kept it that way.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now Peter Green has it his whole career. And then how does Gary Moore get this guitar? Does it go through a few people, then Gary Moore?
No,
What's the history?
Okay, so I believe that Peter Green got this guitar somewhere around 1964, 1965. He was in a band called Shotgun Express with Rod Stewart and Bernie Marsden and a couple other.
Whoa, I never knew that.
Yeah, known people.
Holy smokes!
Yeah.
Rod Stewart was the singer with
Yes.
Peter Green.
Yep.
Have you heard that? I haven't heard
I
that
haven't
music.
heard it, but I've talked to people who've seen Shotgun Express.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And then Eric Clapton left John Mayall and the Blues Breakers, and they needed a guitar player, so John Mayall hired Peter Green, and then the next John Mayall album was John Mayall and the Blues Breakers featuring Peter Green. And so Peter Green had it throughout that stint, then left John Mayall and the Blues Breakers and took John McVie and Mick Fleetwood with him and formed Fleetwood Mac.
Exactly.
And so Fleetwood Mac became a band, operational band from like 1967, 1968 to about 1971 when Peter Green left. And so once Peter Green left, he still had Greenie in his possession. And at one point, Gary Moore, who was looking for one of these guitars, approached Peter Green at about, I would say, 1973, 1974, and worked out a deal with Peter to acquire this guitar. And then Gary Moore had it from like 74 up until like, I don't know, 2005, 2006
Yeah.
or something.
I saw him play it
Yeah.
at Wolfgang's.
Yeah.
I saw him play that guitar at Wolfgang's.
Yeah, probably.
And then he passes away, and somebody
So it goes to so Gary Moore had some problems with canceling shows. Something happened. He had to cancel a bunch of shows, and it put him in debt.
Yeah.
And so what had happened was he figured, well, if I sell Greenie, I can cover my losses, and so he sold it to a pretty well known dealer collector who just sat on it, and after about 3 or 4 years, decided that he wanted to sell it, and that's when all these rumors of
I started seeing that.
Yeah, $2 million guitar, $1 million guitar. And because of those rumors, no one was really interested in like really being serious about buying it.
Right.
And so it just kind of like languished for a while and made the rounds of all the guitar shows all over the country, Atlanta, Texas, California, Chicago, whatever. And then this the guy who had Greenie came into some financial problems and needed to sell Greenie right away.
Wow.
He needed a quick cash influx, and so that's where I came in. Literally at the right place at the right time.
That's incredible, dude.
And I didn't pay $1 million. I didn't even pay $500,000.
No shit.
I paid a very, very reasonable price, and there have been 59 Les Pauls that have sold for almost twice as what I've paid.
And they went done with zero history.
Yeah, with zero history. I mean, it might be super flamey or good condition or whatever.
But this flame is the ultimate flame.
Yeah.
It goes all the way down.
Yep.
It's tight squiggles.
Yeah.
The color is an amber.
Yeah, amber burst.
Which
now.
is
it used to be I used to have red, but it faded.
Yeah. It has 60 Les Paul knobs on it.
Yes.
Which is amazing, which are the mirrored ones.
Yep.
It has, I believe, shower tuners on it.
Yeah, Gary put showers on there.
And then it had, now who broke the headstock a couple times? Gary or someone?
Gary, it was broken with Gary twice.
Wow.
The first time was just a standard break. The second time, what had happened... And I got the story from Neil Carter, who was the keyboard player, rhythm guitar player of UFO. When I saw UFO last year down here in L.A.
Yeah, when you sat in with him.
Yeah, when I played with them, Neil said that he was with Gary when the accident happened. And what had happened was it was after a show, and Neil and Gary were about to leave, and Gary told his manager that he needed petrol, gas.
Yeah.
So I guess it was assumed that that his manager went and put gas in the car. So they're going up, I don't know, the M1 or something, one of those highways or something, and they run out of gas, and they come to a dead fucking stop in the middle of the fucking night, right? And so they both get out of the car, and I guess they're trying to, like, make a phone call or something to let someone know that they're just stranded out in the middle of nowhere. And what had happened is all of a sudden a car came, did not see the car in front of them, slammed on the brakes, and then just rear-ended the car.
Whoa!
And that was a heavy impact because that car, Gary's car, was absolutely still. And
yeah.
You know, when a car is still and it gets hit by a moving,
it's like a rock. You're just hitting a boulder.
Maximum impact.
Yeah.
And so, actually, the guitar should have been shattered into a million pieces.
Oh shit!
But luckily, only the neck broke.
Oh.
And so, yeah, it got fixed, and you know, Gary just started, playing it, just picked it right up from where he left off with it.
And last week, you saw Peter Green in London at Abbey Road Studios. Was that the first time you met Peter Green?
Yeah, that was the first time, and I actually met him at his house in the south of London.
Unbelievable.
And it was pretty intense, bro.
Yeah.
It was like actually super intense. When we arrived, you can cut the friggin' air with a fucking knife. It was just so thick. You know, walking into the room where he was, and I got the distinct feeling that as much as we were checking him out, he was checking us out.
Right.
And we just kind of like just took it really easy, and we just started talking and just got on to talking about music and guitars. He had a friend there who he's known forever and ever since the Fleetwood Mac days. And I said to Peter, I said, "Hey man, I have a friend of yours in this bag."
Yeah.
And I pulled it out and I showed it to him, and he said, "That's not my guitar," which is his stock answer whenever he's asked about Greenie.
Right.
And the reason why he says that is because he doesn't see the red in the finish.
Oh.
When he owned it, it had a lot of red.
That's right.
So he says, "Oh, that's not my guitar. My guitar was red." But his friend, who was just like sitting across the room, said he knows that's his guitar.
Oh.
So it's just kind of a thing he does,
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long did you stay? Did you talk to him for a while?
Yeah, I mean, we were there for about 2.5 hours or so. Because he's on certain meds,
right.
He doesn't have a lot of stamina, and the meds kind of affect his weight. But from what I can gather, he's more cognizant these days and much more even keeled and level than he's been in decades, which is a great thing. And so, we just got to talking about, just guitars and music. He likes to fish. And so next time I see him, I'm going to bring him a fishing rod.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, and I just, told him about amazing deep sea fishing in Hawaii and whatnot. And then I had the track that I recorded at Abbey Road Studios, an old Fleetwood Mac song called "Man of the World," which is kind of a ballad, all the way through. It gets a little uppity in the end, but what I did was I just modernized the whole song, modernized it with modern tones, kind of like a more modern arrangement. I made the uppity part heavy, and dynamic, and I actually took a lot of liberties with it, and so I got a little nervous about playing the song for him because I took a lot of liberties. I don't know if he would be offended by that, but I played in the track, and right after it ended, he just looked at his friend and asked him something about the weather or something. I was like, I didn't know if he liked it or not.
Yeah.
But the guy there who's kind of who's seeing all this through, this guy named Mark, who's spearheading this whole project. He told me that Peter liked it, and he was able to determine that from Peter's body language. And I said, "What do you mean?" Because it looked like he was more interested in the weather than anything else.
Yeah.
And he said that when he was listening, he was tapping his foot. And by the end, he was kind of like making like little kind of guitar movements with his hand. And Mark said that was a very, very positive thing. And for me, that was a big kind of like sigh of relief.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I didn't want to piss him off, and sometimes when you take liberties with other people's music, you just never know how they're going to react. They might like it, they might hate it. But it seemed like he was very positive towards it. A little bit more about the track.
Yeah.
So on Saturday, I go out to go see Mick out in Hawaii, Mick Fleetwood, and he's actually going to play drums on the track.
Oh, this is incredible.
Yeah.
So there's a Peter Green tribute record coming out.
Yes.
And you're doing one of the songs?
Yeah, Man of the World.
Right.
There was a demo of this one song called Need Your Love So Bad that they found. It's a demo of Peter Green singing that song in his bedroom. And like at the end of it, you can hear his mom telling him to turn it down or something like that. So what they did was they took that vocal track and they isolated it, and they created an augmented instrumentation track done by David Gilmour. So what basically is like the song "Need Your Love So Bad," created by David Gilmour and his band, and then they flew in the Peter Green vocal on top of it.
Amazing.
Yeah, and so it's a more modern, updated version of "Need Your Love So Bad," and that's one of the tracks. The other track is "Man of the World" with myself and Mick Fleetwood.
Are you singing on it?
I am singing on it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's an easy song to sing.
Right,
it's
right.
like, that talk singing kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I can handle that.
Yeah.
That's about, the length of my singing abilities. But I'm into it. I am so into it. I'm into all aspects of it. And it's just one of those things. It's just kind of just unfolded,
Yeah.
It just kind of unfolded like this. And it's amazing. I never knew that like owning a guitar can lead to so many opportunities, and
Yeah.
I've met so many great people through this guitar. Different types of musicians, guitar collectors, guitar dealers, people who are just fans of Peter Green, who are fans of Thin Lizzy, fans of Gary Moore. I mean, it's nuts. I've never experienced anything like it with any other guitar.
Well, it's a lifer for you. You'll have that till the day you die.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, it doesn't feel like I even own it. I feel like I'm just with it.
Right.
It's a real relationship, bro.
You use it on Metallica record?
It's all over hardwired to self.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's to self-destruct. And it's really funny because when we started to start doing tracks for that, I thought, okay, right, I know Greenie sounds great, but is it just me or what? And so what we did is we got this one track, and I played 4 different guitars, basically my best 4 sounding guitars, and Greenie. And so we did the Pepsi challenge. We did a blind test.
Yeah.
And we trucked in, 4 different people, and I picked out Greenie every single time, and so did everyone else as the best sound.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it. It's just like our ears just perked up to the sound of Greenie, and it just goes without saying, man. And this guitar it's one in a million.
You now James has some 59s, right?
Yeah, he has some pretty nice guitars as well. He has a really, really incredible 59 Explorer.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, and those Explorers
Carina.
Those are super, super rare. They only made like 44 of them over like 58, 59, and 60.
There was a time where I always hear these kind of things. They come up the wire to me like, KIRK did this or that. But I heard there was a time where you were trying to own most of the Carina Vs that were made in 58, 59.
There was a time when I was looking to buy, but then I discovered that there's this one guy who has almost all of them.
Really?
So you can't even begin to like go out and look for them because they're already in a collection.
Yeah.
And this collection is huge. This collection has over 100 standards, Les Paul standards, bro. Over 100.
Well, how many 59s were there? 150 or 40?
800.
Oh, 800.
800 over 58, 59, 60. So,
So this guy has over 100.
Yeah.
Is he Japanese? Or?
No, he's a very well-to-do collector on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And there was this one guy. He's a tech, one of the best guitar techs that was out there. He worked for me for a little while. He worked for Angus. He worked for Keith Richards. His last gig was with Pete Townsend. This guy named
Pierre?
Alan Rogan.
Right.
And he was actually the guy who turned me on to 58s and 59s back in the 90s. He went to go see this collection, right? This amazing collection, and he ended up getting mad. He ended up getting pissed, and he started just like giving the collector a real piece of his mind, saying, "What are you trying to do? Buy them all? Buy them all for yourself? What about everyone else? What about everyone else who actually wants to use these guitars to make music?
Yeah.
To make albums? Because this person is just a collector.
Yeah.
He wasn't a working musician. He wasn't a recording musician. So I guess Alan really just kind of hit this guy's conscience to the core. And so this guy is now slowly letting out all these really great Les Pauls.
Whoa.
Maybe like 4 or 5 at a time.
I saw Neil Sean got like 2 a couple weeks ago. I wonder if he got them from this guy because they're amazing.
It might be that he has.
Right.
I actually got one out from this collection about a month ago.
Ooh.
And it's
59 or 8 or 60?
It's a 60.
So slim neck.
Yeah, slim neck. And it's crazy because I had to call the guy I got it from, and I said, "What gauge guitar strings are on this Les Paul?" He said 10s, what you usually play. And I said, "Are you sure?" He starts laughing. He goes, "It's really easy to play, isn't it?" And I go, "Bro, I could swear that you put 8s on here."
Wow.
Because this guitar is the easiest guitar I've ever played, and it feels right too. It doesn't feel like it's just low action, skinny low ass frets, cheating frets. It's not that. It's just put together so well, Dean.
Wow.
That it just glides.
What is it? Is it the tomato burst?
It has that tomato color. It has that tomato color for sure.
Yeah.
The 60s retain the red.
Yep.
Because they used a different varnish or cellulose or whatever. I don't know the technical reason why they still retain their red. But this one is great. It's really cutting. The tone is just like really, really bright and rocking. And I have about because I've been collecting these guitars since the 90s, the Les Pauls. I have about 12 now myself.
12?
Yeah, about 12.
58, 59, 60s?
Yep.
No shit?
Yeah. So the one I have that's my favorite right behind Greenie is this amazing 59. It came out of Kansas City. The flame is sick.
Wow.
The flame, the actual flame lines are fat.
Whoa.
And the sound is just heavy. And so, people name these guitars.
Yeah.
So that one I named Thor's Hammer.
Oh.
And because it's
Thor's Hammer.
It's a heavy sounding Les Paul.
So just great for like chunk?
Totally great for chunk.
Wow.
Completely great for chunk.
Wow.
And Greenie's great for chunk too. Greenie just rules for everything.
Yeah.
Chunkiness, cleanness, leads, like clean jazz stuff. Great jazz chords, just ring with Greenie. Gets a down and dirty blues sound. And, when I turn up the gain and like turn up the low end and make it really crunchy, it just delivers totally, completely. But I should show you Thor's Hammer one of these days. It's up in the Bay Area.
Please.
You'll love it. You'll love it.
I must see that.
Yeah. Have you seen the Burst books?
I got
1, 2, and 3.
Well, my favorite one is the one that came from Japan. The first one, that's it's like numbered.
Right.
It's not the first one, Yoshika or whatever.
Yeah, you have that.
I have that.
Yeah, because that goes for like $1,000 now.
I love that book.
Yeah, I have that one too.
It is the Bible to me.
Yeah,
and
the photography is amazing.
It's amazing. And I recently had Paul Stanley on the podcast.
Yep.
And of course,
he has
the Stanley Burst.
The Stanley Burst is great.
It was great.
The Stanley Burst. I can hear that thing on like so many Kiss albums. It's crazy. And Ace Frehley had a really nice one as well.
Oh, he did.
And that 58, 59 sound is all over Destroyer. I mean, it's just like vintage Les Paul and Marshall all over that album.
Yeah. Jimmy Page is my guy, you know. So,
Jimmy was the one who said to me, Kirk, I know that guitar, you should buy it. And, a guitar this stature and then coming with a recommendation like that from Jimmy, I was just like, oh, of course, I have to get this guitar.
Yeah,
it's just there's no question about it, and it all felt so natural. And the weirdest thing is that I didn't track this guitar down. I had like no sort of like desire to like acquire it. It literally came to me and said, "Hey, this is what's going on. This is what
genius.
I sound like."
Yeah,
and I'm going, holy crap!
This is what I sound like.
Thank you for coming to me. Thank you.
Oh.
And then all that Peter Green stuff aside, one of my favorite Thin Lizzy albums, Black Rose, from like the 78 or 79.
Yeah,
Gary Moore played Greenie on the entire album. I put the album on and like I hear fucking ripping chords. I'm like, that's Greenie. I hear fucking ripping Gary Moore guitar solo. I'm like, that's Greenie. I hear the song Black Rose with all these like melodies and harmonies in different tones, and it's all Greenie. Oh, it's amazing, bro.
Oh my god, dude.
And
it's 2 feet away from us. It hurts me, man. It's just sitting over there, a piece of massive history, dude.
Bro, that's why I'm always with it.
Yeah.
I love playing
I love how
it.
you came in. You came into the interview with it with no case. You just walked in because you said a month ago you'd bring it, and I didn't want to bug you because I was like, God, I just want to get the interview. And then when you walked in, I go, fuck, he did bring it. And then the hair on my arms just raised up, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's magic, man.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing, and we can finally settle this with the years and years of Gibson doing all these exact, they say, measured tops and all the reissues. In the photos, the tops do look more concaved than in real life. Because it's sitting here in real life. I've seen Joe Bonamassa's collection. I saw Gary Rosington's in this one. So Gibson is getting close to what it is now. Because people are always like, the top's not even close. In the photos, they look like almost a skateboard dish.
Yeah, it's crazy because it's different with every guitar.
Yeah, because they're all handmade by different people.
Yeah, I one of the very first ones that I ever played, it was one that Joe Walsh owned at one point, and Joe Walsh is known for buying these guitars
He's
before
the king.
anyone.
He sold the one to Jimmy Page.
Yeah, I mean, at one point, Joe Walsh had like 25 of them, and you'd open up a case and it'd still have the tissue paper wrapping that Gibson used to ship him in.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, freaking believable.
Yeah.
But Alan Rogan brought me one of the Joe Walsh Les Pauls, and I was amazed at the contour. The contour was almost like you said, like a skateboard park.
Right?
It was like woo. And then I started seeing other ones, and I kept on thinking, I haven't seen anyone in any of those with that same contour.
Right.
And then I thought, well, that's just probably just how it is, and that Joe Walsh
different people on the lathe.
Yeah.
You know, some people had a heavy hand; they go deep in, and maybe the tops, because when the tops start, they're real thick, and then they start carving the tops. Maybe some people are like, "Well, this piece isn't as thick. I'll just go easy on this." But this one here, I'm looking at a straight across right now, and it definitely looks like a 59 reissue right now. Because I always, whenever I look at them, I go, "Oh, the tops aren't right." But then I realize the photography also really the way the light hits it, it makes it look way more dished.
Yep, precisely. And you know, it was the same with the pickups too. The pickups are all wound by hand, and so sometimes you get a few more winds, sometimes you get less winds. But the point of that is that none of the pickups sound the same.
No, some are real bright, ice picky. Those are the duds. You strum it, you go, ooh.
Well, you know, it depends on what you like. Because like I've played some that are super bright, but have worked for what I need them to be. You know, when I needed a really bright cutting sound, you know, just dial back some of the presence on the amp and some of the high end on the amp, and then it's just like totally manageable and it just cuts. And you know, it's crazy because I had this other Les Paul, and you can measure the pickups. You can measure the output, the output ohms. I have one with very, very high output, probably the highest I've ever seen, and it just doesn't cut, and it doesn't have the heaviness that you would think. It actually sounds spongy, which is kind of weird. But again, you know, sometimes I need a spongy sound just for contrast.
Right.
You
like good rhythm tone.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that kind of sit in the foundation of things. And one thing that I don't like about these guitars, and it's just like, and it's just one of those things, is around the knobs.
Yeah.
You have this piece of metal right here.
The measure. Yeah. And they cut your fingers.
I've cut my fingers at least 3 or 4 times.
Oh, yeah.
In the time I've had this guitar, and sometimes it's on stage playing live, and it's not like I can just like set it down and grab a towel and start wiping blood off of my hands, off the guitar.
You just go full metal.
I just have to keep on playing the song, and by the end of the song, you know, there's blood all over my hands. There's blood all over Greenie.
Yeah.
But then I think this is perfect because like I'll bleed for Greenie any fucking day.
Yeah, and you're just adding your own patina.
Yeah, exactly.
Part 3 of the patina.
Yeah.
Greenie, Gary Moore, Kirk Hammett. You know.
Yeah. It's just one of those things, man.
Let's get into like a little bit of that. I mean, you are definitely. I've said this many, many times. I feel like you're one of the greatest guitar players, and at the same time, I really feel that you're underrated. I've seen you live probably 100 times, and every time I see you, I go, this fucking guy does not miss a note, man. And I think that you are just a treasure in the guitar world. And after seeing Murder in the Front Row, I really, really loved how you got glory on this film. You were the guy that taught Gary Holt how to play guitar. You were the guy that were telling the kids about UFO and Saxon and all the British heavy metal. You were the guy who named Exodus. You were the guy that started Exodus, and then you move into Metallica. And I look for the blueprint, the ground zero of that galloping thrash metal, palming, picking up, which is thrash metal to me, from Bonded by Blood, and really, really big time showcased on Ride the Lightning record. I just fucking, when I saw that, I got a little like teary eyed for real. Like this man,
I did too.
I was like, this man is gold right here. This man is gold. And I just feel like I just wanted to sit down and talk to you about those early days, and not like the boring stuff that you've said a million times, but there really is something so magical to what happened with you, an El Sobrante guy who later ends up living in Pacific Heights. You made it to any Bay Area kid, you know?
Yeah. Well, you know, it's crazy. There's a similar analogy of what happened to me in the Bay Area. It's very similar to what happened in the early 60s in England with, all these British musicians and the blues. This weird music was coming from this far-off land, and there were only just a handful of people who understood it and liked it, and because they were musicians, they just like absorbed it, through osmosis or however musicians absorb it, and it influenced how they played, and then from that came all the great bands, Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, Free, it's just like Black Sabbath. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's all the bands that we know and love. The exact same thing happened in reverse. For me, I was just sitting there playing my guitar and thinking that, okay, I think I know what I like. I like loud, fast drums, power chords, a singer who can like really, really sing, and lots of energy. And I was getting that from bands like Van Halen and Aerosmith and the first few Pat Travers albums. And then I discovered UFO, who were the heaviest band at the time, 78, 79, and I totally just learned all their albums, and Michael Schenker became like a huge source of inspiration for me and kind of guided my style.
Even your guitar, because you got a black V,
flying
and then
V.
You made it one pickup.
Yep.
And that was like all of a sudden, like nobody had that. You're like, whoa, he's got the red V,
Yeah, and I washed a lot of dishes to buy that, but it was the same sort of thing. I was looking for other bands like UFO. I thought there might be other bands out there, and I would travel from El Sobrante to Berkeley to go to Telegraph Records, to go Rasputin's Records and Rather Ripped Records, and they had imports. And I remember seeing all these other bands, and they had this. They showed the signs, long hair, leather jackets, attitude. I remember going, hey, Ace of Spades, look at this album cover. This is something. I remember buying that and going, oh, my God, this is like UFO but different. I remember like picking up an album and going, wow, look at this monster with the fucking crazy eyes. And this band's called Iron Maiden. Wow, great. And I buy these albums, run home and listen to them and get totally blown away. And when I'm into something, I have a habit of like telling all my friends about it.
The same way. That's what this podcast is.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what happened. I started telling all my friends about it, and we would just like sit around and listening to these albums and this movement that seemed to be coming from England called the New Wave of British Heavy Metal.
It was amazing.
Yeah, and it seemed like every other time I would go to a record store and I would see someone else buying that same album. I go, hey, I like that stuff too.
Yeah.
Let's hang out.
Yeah.
And that's how eventually I would see people at house parties, because we would, me and the guys in Exodus, we would start going to all these house parties in places like El Cerrito, Albany, Berkeley, where the kids had a little bit more money. And
Pinole.
Yeah.
How about Pinole?
Not so much Pinole.
Yeah. No money there. But,
no money there.
But there was some metal people in there.
Yeah, there were definitely metal people there.
Yeah.
But, in Berkeley, there seemed to be a lot more musicians there with equipment who were into this kind of sound. And then literally just all of a sudden, all these bands started popping up. And this is when Exodus was already together. Gary was in the band. We were playing covers. We played like a Scorpion song. We played an Iron Maiden song. We played all sorts of stuff.
Priest.
Priest, all sorts of just new wave of British.
With Bailoff singing the covers?
So check this out.
Yeah.
So we were at this one party in Berkeley, and I got to talking to this guy because I think he had like a Saxon patch on his leather or denim jacket.
Yeah.
I said, "Hey, bro, do you know UFO?" And he started singing Rock Bottom to me just right off the bat. And I go, "You're going to sing for our band?"
Yeah.
I go, "Hey, Gary, I think I just found our singer. What's your name?" Paul Bailoff.
Yeah.
And from that moment on, fucking inseparable. Fucking inseparable.
Yeah.
And with Bailoff, he knew even more people who were into this sound. And
because he had that personality. He was outgoing. He just go up to people like,
super
he'd be like, Maiden, dude.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, whoa.
And like, you can hear him across the room talk about Maiden, and then you'd run over there and go, "Yeah, I'm part of this."
Yeah.
And
the first time he comes to sing, are you like, because his style is really unique.
Yeah.
Were you just like,
This is what we, Gary and I were talking about it. I remember very clearly. We were like, well, he's not the best singer in the world, but he knows the music.
Yeah.
And he knows what it's supposed to sound like, because we started writing songs. And the songs that we were writing with him sounded great. The covers that we were doing, not so great,
right?
But it didn't matter. What really mattered was the original material.
What was some of the early original stuff? Was the stuff on Bonded by Blood?
Yeah, it was the stuff that was on the 3-song demo, and then there was a bunch of stuff that ended up on Bonded by Blood,
right?
Stuff like No Love and Piranha, and
then there were none.
And then there were none.
That song,
yeah.
Fuck.
And I was instrumental in writing a lot of that stuff, but then, I got a call to go join some other band.
Of course.
Yeah, but getting all back to just to like rewind, when I started hearing all these bands, my first thing was like, I got to form a band and we got to play these songs. And I wasn't the first person in the Bay Area. There were other bands and other people thinking the exact same thing as I. What was really instrumental and brought the scene together was when Saxon came to
the Stone.
The Stone, and that brought all the new wave of British heavy metal people in the entire Bay Area to that one spot. And we all saw each other. We all recognized each other as being, into the same music. We were the same fucking tribe. And I remember that night just looking at all these people going, wow, these are all people that are,
we all know this band from Europe.
Yeah. And then from that point on, it was I would see them at other shows, local band shows, seeing bands who were trying to emulate this song, the sound, and then Metal Mondays came.
Oh, the best, old Waldorf.
At the old Waldorf, and the first band to play the very first Metal Monday was Motley Crue.
Unbelievable, yeah. With the sheets over the amps, the MC.
Yep. It was total, hood rat, fucking do-it-yourself kind of operation. But that became like a thing that every Monday all the metal people would go to. And that's how the scene started, really.
It really did start in that one spot right there. I always talk about that club because I do the Punchline now, which is right next door.
Yep.
And whenever I walk up there, and I'm 53, I think you're like 58 or something. 57.
Yep.
But when I walk up there, it was so long ago that I can't even take in how long ago it was. I go, this feels like, for real, when they say another lifetime ago, it feels like I was a different human then because you're so virgin to what you're about to take on for the next lifetime.
Yeah.
And it's all...
None of us knew that.
Yeah.
None of us knew that.
Yeah.
We were just into a weird type of music that not a lot of people in the fucking whole nation knew about.
Yeah. And, like Y&T would play there and they'd run down the tables, remember? Those long tables.
Because they had their cordlesses.
Yeah.
The long tables, exactly.
Where does the origin of that right hand come? Because British heavy metal wasn't doing that. Of that, the palming, the muting, and that. Where does that come from? Because it's definitely Bay Area thrash.
Yeah. It just came from I think just nerves, bro. Just friggin' nerves, nervousness, just nerves.
Right.
And also Gary and we listened to KUSF. We listened to CalX. Gary's older brother Charles was a total like late 70s, early 80s British punk guy.
Gary Holt's brother?
Yeah,
wow.
Gary Holt's brother. And so we were listening to the Pistols, we were listening to Dead Kennedys, the Ramones, all these bands, and liking the fast beats.
Yeah.
And it was, I remember Gary and I were just sitting around, and we just started chunking, all down picks, and we looked at each other and we thought, this is the sound. And then we started trying to figure out how we can do it as fast as possible with just all down picking.
Yeah.
And then we figured out that if you just like put an alternate pick in there, it changes it all up. And I think that's how that kind of like that gallopy kind of like shuffly kind of open E rhythm pattern kind of developed.
It's amazing to me when I hear it. It's almost the pulse of the Bay Area.
Absolutely. I mean, it felt right. It felt right, and that was the thing. Gary and I would always just do things by feel because we we couldn't write out fucking whatever the fuck we were doing. We had to feel it all.
Yeah.
Because we were just young musicians, and it felt right. And we started writing riffs, and we started like learning how to construct riffs and just putting riffs together, and it just all fell into place. And another thing that was very instrumental too is Tom Hunting.
Oh yeah,
he went to high school with me, and I remember the first time I'd met Tom, he had drumsticks hanging out the back of his body.
Clive Burr style.
Yeah. He had just started playing, and so he went from just like playing a straight beat through the whole song to just being like an octopus of a player. I mean, he was progressing so quickly that we were just like, wow, holy shit, man. We got to fucking try and rein this guy in. And part of it was just like, turning it up and like, hitting power chords so that he can do his thing. And, supplementing his playing with guitar riffs and power chords and whatnot.
The actual song "Bonded by Blood" is a complete what you're talking about with Tom, man. I mean, that's almost a galloping beat too. Yeah. It's just got this thing,
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned that song. The title of that was all based upon one night when we were all really fucking drunk, drinking vodka somewhere. And we're just expressing our love for each other, and someone said, "Yeah, man, we're fucking bonded by motherfucking blood." And then someone grabbed the razor blade that was close by.
Yeah,
and we all cut ourselves right here, right there. You can barely see my scar.
Oh my God!
We all cut ourselves right there, right in between the index finger and the thumb, on the top of our hands.
Yeah.
And we would just wait for it to bleed, and we all rubbed it together. This is before AIDS.
Yeah.
That was Bonded by Blood. That was the incident that inspired the song Bonded by Blood.
Those guys were actual lunatics. There was a night where I went to a party at one of their houses, and they were having fork wars. And I've talked about this.
Oh, Bailoff would do that all the fucking time. It was
unbelievable. So I show up, and I'm like, there's just booze, and they're stabbing each other with forks. I'm getting the fuck out of here. These guys are nuts.
Yeah. Bailoff would use pens, forks, pencils, just anything, just to play with people.
Oh my God.
And you have to understand, Bailoff, he wasn't really mean-spirited. He was playful.
That's what he was.
He was playful and with a lot of sarcasm built in. And so, he was a funny guy, and he liked to play around, and there's people who were just obvious fucking victims and targets. And so that's, he just kind of helped himself to his own fun.
Oh my God. I was in the house for about 20 minutes. It was in Berkeley, and I go, I'm out of here.
Yeah. His house was amazing. It was, I think the first time I went to his place, he had this dog that was part wolf, and that dog was named Bytor. And Bytor was always with Paul. Bytor was in the back of Paul's car. Bytor was sleeping in Paul's bed. Bytor would fucking take a crap in the shower when Paul was like too out of it to fucking let Bytor out. And I don't think Paul cleaned his house once.
Oh my God!
Yeah, it was one of those places. I'd walk in and
just the real deal. That guy.
Yeah, and like look into the sink, the kitchen sink, and I remember one time I saw mosquito larvae just like floating around in a bowl full of water in the sink. I'm thinking, yep, this guy, he has better things to do than to clean his house.
This guy is
apparently so freaking metal. And he used to grow his nails long too, so he can do exactly that jabbing thing.
Oh, yeah.
He was big on that.
Oh.
He was Russian.
Oh man,
Paul Bailoff was Russian. His real name was Bailoff Shinnikov or something like that.
God, I miss that guy.
Yeah, he was something. He was really, really smart too. He had an intellect, which people kind of like forget that part, but he was really, really smart, very astute, and he when he needed to, he could be really, really, he could speak really, really well when he needed to.
You guys, you guys are going for it. I had Brian Liu on last week, and he said the one thing he knew about you guys were you were way more focused as a band than all the other bands. Like you guys were, I remember it seemed like you were in Europe a long time, and then one night I saw you guys just hanging at the Stone, and I was like, well, those guys are different humans than us. They've been places, they've seen shit, and it was just like you guys were just a different level of mindset of playing music. And it really came out on the Ride the Lightning record. I talk about my 3 records out of the Bay Area. Of course, I could easily say Master of Puppets. That's an easy way to go. But it really is Ride the Lightning record. From Kill 'Em All to Ride the Lightning. When that comes out, me and my friends are just like, oh, I don't even know how they're playing this stuff. We're over there learning, AC/DC, Sin City. Mm-hmm. And, like, this record comes out, and it's what is this? I can't even believe it still to this day.
Yeah, the songs just kind of just happened, bro. The songs just kind of just happened. We just started playing, and they just fucking happened.
That's magic.
I things like I remember walking into the room, and there's Cliff playing over and over again the intro to the For Whom the Bell Tolls.
Oh my God! Yeah.
And I remember Lars saying, "That's pretty cool."
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, it's the intro to the song.
Yeah.
Things like that happen. I remember we were in a basement in New Jersey, right? And James starts playing this arpeggiated thing, and then he has this like heavy part, and then I was going, oh yeah, that's great, that's a good cycle. We can cycle through that, but it feels like it needs to go to like another like melodic part for the end. And I said to Lars, here, how about this? And he said, yeah, that'll work. And so we put it all together in the basement, and that became Fade to Black. Trapped Under Ice. Again, the same basement. We need to write one more fast song. Okay. Oh, okay, James has a riff. What do you got? I'm like listening to it, and I'm like, oh, wait, I got a riff? I got a fucking riff? But it's in an old Exorcist song.
Yeah.
But we can use it.
Yeah.
And that's how Trapped Under Ice came.
You guys were writing that shit in Jersey, before you went to Europe.
At least like three songs were written in Jersey,
right?
Because the initial songs that kind of like pushed off the beginning of that album was Creeping Death, and that riff, the main riff, was played slow.
Whoa!
It was kind of like a slow bouncy thing. But the more we played it, the faster it got. And then at one point we didn't even notice it was getting faster and faster and faster until we went back to the original and we're like, and it was like dun 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 dun, and we thought, well, if it's sounding better, faster, let's speed it up way more.
Yeah.
And that became what it was.
It's a that song's the punch in the face of like that era.
And then again, now it needed another part. Oh shit! I got a part from an Exodus song.
Yeah.
But the part that I lifted from the Exodus song was a riff that I had written literally when I was like fucking 15 or 16 years old. That died by my hand part.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it because it was a turning point in my own playing. When I remember just sitting down in my bedroom and that riff just fell out of my guitar, and I remember scratching my head thinking, wow, that's like nothing else that you know I'm hearing on the radio, and it's a lot like what I'm hearing coming over from England and Europe.
Yeah.
And it was a turning point because it showed that I was able to kind of like cop that feel that I was so into, and I could start writing songs in that kind of direction, riffs in that direction, you know, chord progressions, melodies that were more in that direction rather than what was played on the radio.
Yeah.
And what everyone else was listening to, which was like Van Halen and Journey and, you know, Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
And AC/DC. All that stuff was cool, but this other stuff to me was just way cooler.
Yeah.
And to be able to like start writing that kind of flavor, it was a huge thing for me. So Ride the Lightning was another song that we that kind of it was pushed off, you know, the initial kind of like direction of Ride the Lightning. And that riff was something that James had, and they had like 4 riffs put together. And I remember James and Lars just put that whole cycle together, and then I came in and put the whole middle section together, the whole instrumental section together with them, and then it wasn't finished. So we had to finish it in Copenhagen at Merciful Fate's rehearsal place.
Unbelievable.
They lent us their rehearsal place, and we finished writing the song Ride the Lightning there in the rehearsal space. And the fact that we were there in the rehearsal space was freaking me out because I was so into Merciful Fate.
Oh my God.
I loved them. I loved all the demos. I loved King Diamond. I loved the EP. And so I think
C-U-N-T.
Yes. That's what you are.
Oh man. I remember the first time I heard that, I was like, oh my God, what?
When I first heard that, I was like, this flies in the face of everything that happened to me as a Catholic school kid.
Oh my God.
Nuns have no fun.
When you
epic.
first joined the band, of course later Jason got a heavy hazing, but when you first joined, I mean, you knew James and Lars because Exodus had played with Metallica.
Yep.
But when you start touring with them, that's when you really start to figure out who people are.
Yeah.
And James was really this closed off. I would try to talk to him back then. I'd tell a famous story where I went up to him at one of your gigs at the Stone, and I go, sounded great tonight. And he goes, move on. It was amazing. He was with Jim Martin. He just goes, move on. And I was like, what? He goes, move on. And then I realized later it was his own insecurity and his shyness, but it was like, these guys are outlaws, you know, they're crazy. But when you first joined, are you like, these fucking guys are weird, or were you just weird with them?
I was weird with them. We all got along right off the bat. We hit it off so amazingly right off the fucking bat. I mean, the very first night that I played with him, this quote-unquote audition, Lars kept on looking at James, and James kept on looking at Lars, and they kept on smiling, and I was going, what's up with these guys? Are they in love with each other or something? What's going on? But I later found out that they were so happy that the other person playing guitar was not their old guitar player. And they were so happy that he is out of the picture and I was in the picture with a lot of potential and a lot of possibilities. I mean, they saw all that stuff even before I saw it, you know. They never really told me that I was in the band. I mean, I figured it out when Lars said, okay, in about 3 weeks, we're going to go up to upstate New York, and we're going to record our first album. And I was like, okay. And then I realized I must be in the band because we were doing the album.
Do you fly out to New York to audition though?
Yes.
And then you go back home?
Yes.
And then they call you and say, hey, we're going to do a record?
No.
Okay.
No. So I fly out to New York. We play a bunch of shows in New Jersey, New York, that whole area. And then we had to play shows because we were fucking broke.
Oh, wow.
And we needed to play shows to fucking eat.
Yeah.
Because, we were on Megaforce Records, and we were the first artist on Megaforce Records.
Yeah, it was basically out of a record store.
Yeah. There was no like capital or like fucking financial resources or.
It's not a record
anything.
company. It's a fan who's actually cool and is like putting his own money up for a record.
Yeah, and so 10. I can't remember if it was 10 grand or 15 grand was raised, and with that money we had to record our album and also live, and so we were doing that, and then we went up to upstate New York, and we were all just living in one house, and then we recorded Kill 'Em All, and then Cliff and I took a Greyhound bus back from New York back to San Francisco. It took 3 fucking days.
Whoa!
And
nonstop on the bus?
Yeah, nonstop on the freaking bus. And then Lars and James came back like a week later with the fucking a cassette of the album.
Wow!
And we all made copies, and then we were home for like maybe a couple, 2-3 weeks, and then we went back out on the East Coast again and started playing a lot more shows because we had to exist. And then it looked like we were going to be able to go to Europe for our first European tour. And once we got to Europe, Europe embraced us. I mean, we sold a lot of tickets. We were selling T-shirts. We were actually able to afford to go from show to show in all these different places. And it was actually the Venom tour.
Yeah,
that was our first tour of Europe, and it worked out. It fucking happened to just we barely did it, but we did it, and it was fucking eye opening and great, and it was it gave us a kind of a plot, it gave us an idea of how we wanted to move forward.
And also a brotherhood, like these 4 guys that that have never left never left El Sobrante or whatever.
Yeah.
First you're in New York, then you're in Europe.
Yeah, same with James too. And probably the same with Cliff too.
Right.
I mean, we weren't worldly. We weren't worldly like Lars. He was European. I mean, he had that kind of experience ahead of us.
I mean, you guys came back, and all of a sudden, I learned about Jägermeister and Guinness beer.
Yeah.
You guys are.
We were wearing stretch jeans. No one had stretch jeans back then.
I did want to talk to you about that because we love fashion, you and I noticed in the last 10 years you've really grasped onto high end fashion, which I love too. Also, I love Virgil when he was at Louis and all this stuff. But when you're first plotting out the look of the band, nobody's setting up their look, but there is this look: stretch jeans into the sneakers of Nikes or a white
Converse,
high top, which was Reebok back then.
Reebok,
So it would go inside the shoe.
Yep.
Skin tight rad leather jacket that looked like a Lewis with multiple zippers.
Yep.
And then your favorite rock shirt.
Yep.
Except for Cliff, who of course looked like this badass Fremont biker.
Yeah.
Which I loved, Did you guys ever look at Cliff and go like, hey dude, you got to do this look or something?
We tried to change his look all the time. Absolutely. We would call him pencil legs.
Pencil legs.
Yeah. Or we call him U-boat because he had big feet. Thin legs and big feet. And we were always laughing at his bell bottoms.
Yeah.
And at his Pendletons and his denim jackets. But
it's such
he
a
didn't
great
care.
look.
He didn't. And, it turns out he was ahead of his time.
Totally.
But the funny thing is... I remember we were on tour, and he's like, "Oh man, I need to get some more, bell bottoms. And I said, I know where you can get some freaking bell bottoms. He goes, really? And I said, yeah, Fowler's in El Sobrani, bro.
Yeah.
And sure enough, he came to El Sobrani, and him and I went to Fowler's, and he stocked up on the fucking denim bells.
God, he looked great.
So fast forward, literally 8 or 10 years after Cliff is gone, I'm sitting there one night watching David Letterman.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, there's this whole fucking skit about the last place where you can get bell-bottom jeans in the fucking U.S. of A. And where do they go to?
That place?
But fucking Fowler's and El Sobrani.
Wow.
My mouth dropped.
Letterman?
Yes, on Letterman.
Wow.
My mouth fucking dropped. I could not believe what I was seeing.
Who was putting them on? Like Larry Bud Melvin? Remember that guy?
I can't remember. They had this whole routine where they actually went inside the store and they're asking the people questions and asking them why.
Yeah.
And it was just it was remarkable.
It was definitely Cliff had that look, man. He just had he had the Misfits logo tattooed on him. Like people didn't have tattoos back then.
He was like one of only 2 people who I knew who had tattoos, and I thought it was so radical. And I was like, after I saw his tattoo, I used to say, okay, I'm doing it. I'm going to get a tattoo. I'm going to get a zombie attacking a alligator with a chainsaw, and that was going to be my tattoo. And it never really happened to much later. But Cliff had big plans to get more tattoos.
Yeah.
And so he was he was ahead of the game. He was so ahead of the game, man.
He was.
In his look, in his sound.
Yeah.
So another interesting Cliff thing that a lot of people don't know about is so when I was 16 years old and hanging out with all these other guitar players, we had found this place called the International Cafe in Berkeley, and they would let us in. We were underage, and they would also sell us beer.
Amazing.
Yeah, so we would go there all the time. There was always bands playing there. One night we went there, and there's this band called Easy Street that was playing, and I was checking them out, me and my friends, and it looked like they were a cover band. And so they started to play all these cover songs, and I noticed that the bass player was this red-haired freak who's just was doing this slow motion headbang, but it wasn't called headbanging back then.
Right.
It was just this slow motion thing. And I was thinking, that guy's nuts. And then his amp blew in the second song. So instead of just leaving the stage, you know what Cliff did? And it was Cliff.
Whoa!
In retrospect, he sat in front of his bass amp cabinet, right against it. The band played on, and he just sat there and headbanged throughout the rest of the set,
like on the sideline.
Yes,
like I'm out, but I'm over here still with you guys.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
The other guitar player was this guy with short black curly hair, who I later learned was a guy named Jim Martin.
Jim Martin?
Yep.
He played with Jim Martin in the early days?
In Easy Street, and they had a dummy on stage.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and the dummy was just laying in front of them, and that was their mascot.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and so 2 or 3 years later, I'm with Paul Bailoff. We go to the Stone, and who do I see in Trauma? The same fucking bass player playing the same way, but now he has a wah pedal, and his sound is completely different. And I remember saying to Bailoff, that guy is making this fucking band. And then literally 3 weeks later, Bailoff calls me up and says, guess who's in Metallica now? Trauma bass player. I'm like, no! Oh my God, they're going to be fucking so much better than the other guy they got.
Oh, man.
And then literally 4 weeks later, I get the phone call to join Metallica.
Yeah.
And part of the reason I was so stoked was because I would get to finally meet this guy who I saw on Easy Street and in Trauma, and just find out what he's all about. I was more curious about him as a person than anything else.
Yeah.
And so I remember when I first went out there, to audition for the band, Cliff was the first person I met because James and Lars were still sleeping. It was like 6 o'clock in the evening, and Cliff had been up for a while. And so I hung out with Cliff and figured out that, he was a pretty cool guy, very level-headed, very comfortable in his own skin, even though he was just such a fucking freak to me and so weird and different. He had a confidence about him that you can tell just right away, just right off the bat. And then over the course of that week, I saw him reading a H.P. Lovecraft book that was a module for Dungeons and Dragons.
Really?
Yeah, and I had that same book because I was into Dungeons and Dragons and I was into H.P. Lovecraft. So I had the same book. I said, bro, I have that book. You're into it. He goes, oh, yeah, I love it. H.P. Lovecraft. And I like zombies, too. I'm like, bro, I'm a horror guy. I fucking love zombies, too. And him and I bonded.
Wow.
And Cliff's very most favorite movie of all time was Dawn of the Dead.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. He wore the shirt.
Yeah, all the
stage.
time.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. I want to talk to you. We're sitting here at Maidwarn, which my friend Blaine and your friend and Patrick and the guys here, and we're in the mix of some of the greatest rock merchandise ever. And why we were here last time, my dream is to do a documentary on Dan the Greens.
Yes, that's a great idea.
I really want to do that. If I sell a TV show or get big as a comedian, it's my main project I want to do. Mm-hmm. As you and I were talking, you said I saw Zeppelin, bro. I went to that Zeppelin 77 show, and I'm just a year too young. I missed that. That Dan the Green stuff is so monumental to me and so much of who I am. And you also went. Or when I talked about you guys, the day you guys played
in '85,
it was completely the day the landscape changed of metal. Completely that day. Of course, you're killing it in Europe, but that day was the day that people went, fuck. And that's the day I went, I know these guys. They've made it. These are the heroes. They're there. And it still sits inside my soul every time I see a clip about it or anything. But run me through when you guys get the call. How does it happen? And do you lose your mind like, fuck, I'm playing a day on the green?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when the call came, because Bill Graham would always try and put like a local element into it. We were the local element along with the Y&T that day. And so when we got the call, Cliff and I freaked out because we had been going to these incredible fucking day on the greens.
How many did you see?
Well, I gotta say, the Zeppelin one was monumental, but the one that really, really just like cemented my aspirations to be a musician in a working band was the one I saw in 1978. This was the bill, and it started at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
AC/DC.
Yep.
Then Van Halen.
Yeah.
Then Pat Travers, Foreigner.
Foreigner.
But that was when me and my friends would like go and like get a T-shirt or something.
I love Foreigner.
Yeah, but compared to all the other bands, they were like the low point. And then Aerosmith, classic Aerosmith. That time when they were just all fucked up and so cutting edge, and just like verging on almost punk rock with their attitude.
I went 3 months after. I saw Dan the Green 5, so that's like... I think
that one was with Ted Nugent?
Yeah, so here's the bill I saw. Cheap Trick.
Yep, I saw... Yeah,
AC/DC.
Yep. That was the second time, and AC/DC played Highway to the Hell for the first time.
And then Journey. Journey was on it.
Yes, Journey, yes.
Then Boys to Cold Ted Nugent.
Yep.
And he swung out on the rope.
And threw a bunch of fake rocks.
Fake rocks, remember that?
Audience,
There's even on YouTube, you can see the press footage is like, today Ted Nugent showed up, and he acts like they're huge, and he throws them in the crowd. Yeah. So you go to that show, you lose your mind, now you get the call to play Dan the Green, and like, do the other guys, do they understand the magnitude of it?
No, because they weren't local.
Right.
But Cliff and I did, and I felt like we made it at that point. That was the absolute bona fide high point of my own musical career.
Right.
And I know that Cliff felt the same way because we couldn't stop talking about it.
Yeah.
We could not stop talking about how amazing and cool that was. And, it was something that was just at the forefront of all our minds and all our friends' minds too. Because like when we see, people like you at clubs, everyone wanted to talk about Dion on the Green and how we were playing and how just amazing that was. Because no one expected that to happen.
Not at all.
And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, we were on the bill.
And Scorpions on their biggest record is the headliner. They're fucking huge now.
Absolutely.
It's 65,000.
Yeah.
And let's run through the bill.
Yeah.
It's Yngwie.
Yeah, Y&T, Yngwie, Rat, us, and Scorpions, and maybe
Was Triumph on that or something? No,
I think that was
Queensrÿche. Or no, that's later.
Yeah, that was it.
That was it.
Scorpions, Rat, Yngwie, Y&T, and us. And I remember afterwards, once we had played it and it was all said and done and all the dust settled, I really felt like, oh, now that we've done it, that means that, it can be done.
That's how I felt.
And it felt like, it galvanized the entire scene, and it felt like all of a sudden everyone was starting to work even harder, trying to play more shows, trying to write better songs, starting chasing record companies, and that was pretty much how all of a sudden all these record companies started sniffing around the Bay Area, and all these bands were getting signed.
Yeah, they were.
And it was an incredible thing. And I really feel like the momentum of it had been helped so much by us playing that Day on the Green show.
Oh, 100%. I feel that day, that is exactly the day that the band becomes superstars in all of America, as far as because the word was spreading, word of mouth, pre-computer, pre-phones, anything. It was like, all those kids that were there, they're like, dude, how is the Scorpions? Like, dude, this band Metallica, they just destroyed, they were tearing up the turf. Bill was out there like, knock it off. The band was killing. Cliff with the For Whom the Bells Toll,
Yeah.
And I have 3 pro shots from it. They're big, and they're at my house, and I look at them all the time, and they're like big inspiration, those photos, of just for me to get out and do anything I want to do.
Yeah. We were so fucking nervous beforehand.
Oh.
And I can see it in the performance when I look at that footage. I'm just like, I can't sit still. I'm just like bouncing all over the place. And there's a lot of nervous energy in the way Cliff was playing too. And it totally comes across because he managed to turn that nervous energy into total ripping, shredding bass playing. And he didn't play like that, normally at any of the other shows.
Right.
But man, you can really tell that he went out on a limb for that show, and that there was just a lot of nervous energy, just kind of informing the whole gig.
Oh, it's so rad, man. I read a cool thing about Cliff. I guess he was at his parents' house practicing, getting ready in the morning, and then he looked at his watch, and his girlfriend said, "Hey, you're supposed to be there." And he goes, "Oh, what the fuck?" So he gets in his green, shitty truck.
Volkswagen,
Yeah, he said some shit ride, and he's driving, and then there's traffic.
Yep.
So he just gets out, and he leaves his ride there, and he just runs with his bass. He doesn't even have a pass, and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing?" He goes, I got to be on in there, and he just barely gets in there.
I remember we were all laughing because he came in and he was all exasperated and his hair was flying everywhere. And whenever Cliff was feeling exasperated or frustrated or angry, for some reason it was really funny.
Yeah, I can
We'd
imagine.
all just start laughing. We couldn't take him that seriously when he was like that, but if he had to sit down and be square with you, be honest with you, then it was total seriousness, and he really was he was really great at just getting that fucking message across that he needed to get across. But most of the time when he was flailing, we would just laugh at him.
Oh man. I have so many Metallica memories, which is great to sit here and talk to you about them because I was a guy that was always there and just, like at different cool events. There was one when Jason gets in the band. You guys tell him at Tommy's joint or whatever, he's in the band.
Yeah.
Well, that particular night, I was at Wolfgang's. Faith No More was playing like some gig for like some politician that was running in San Fran. And I remember some of the guys from the band came down and Jason was standing next to me and he goes, I think I'm the new bass player in Metallica.
Holy shit.
This is a true story. And I was like, at Wolfgang's, I remember this story. And I was like, holy shit, really? And he goes, yeah. And I was like, that's amazing. And I was like, this guy might be crazy or whatever, you know what I mean?
Right.
But I really, really remember that. It was wild. But shortly after that, my band started sharing a studio with your band at Hun Sound.
Oh, yeah.
But you guys were never there. So we had our own room. And on the other side was just a bunch of your backup Mesa Boogies and shit.
Yep.
And Thomas would be like, Metallica's still gone. The guy that kind of ran the joint.
Right.
And we had a studio with you guys there.
Yeah.
You never, ever were there.
Yeah. We didn't like the place because it felt like we weren't welcome there. But, we were weird back then and a little kind of like paranoid, because we just kind of like stood out. And sometimes it felt like we were being singled out for whatever reason or whatever. And so I think we didn't really like the vibe there. And we ended up going to Lars's garage.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, instead, and doing the garage days thing.
Yeah,
And
that's so great.
Yeah, and that was the garage days was because we couldn't really get it together at Hun Sound and feel like we were comfortable enough there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's an interesting story because it's so weird now to think that your headquarters are right up the street.
Oh yeah,
from
just
there.
like right around the corner.
That is bizarre,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
To think that you ended up just right down the street from somewhere you didn't feel like you were wanted.
Yeah. It was quite a trip for sure.
I'm pretty vocal on my favorite Metallica record. I've said it over and over and over. Is Injustice for All. And of course, the easy route, like I said, is to say Master of Puppets.
Yep.
But the Injustice for All record, I saw a lot of those dates, I think 5 or 6 of them, and I think it's an absolute masterpiece. And here we are with Neil just passing away, and the Rush being like this influence of the ultraviolence and Death Angel, but that Injustice is really a prog metal record.
It totally is prog.
Was there Rush in there, or what was the idea of just trying to make it as weird as you could?
We just wanted to make it as weird as we could, and in that particular point in time, a lot of what was popular then was music that really showed off musicianship. That was probably the heyday of guitar albums, like Joe Satriani's album,
Virtuosity, that kind of thing. Like, look at me.
Yeah, exactly. You had a lot of these like really commercial kind of like hair metal bands with these guitar players who can like fucking just play incredibly, right? But the songs were fucking crappy. But that was kind of like the thinking, just like let's show our real, how much of our musicianship is actually there, and it became a vehicle to just show our musicianship basically, and I was happy to do it, because I come from a place where that was kind of centered, and what I mean by that is Joe Satriani's album was Surfing with the Alien was like fucking biggest thing around that time, and so I think at one point Lars was taking drum lessons from Joe Satriani's drummer, and so he had just a whole new perspective on his an approach on his drums, and so we wanted to implement that musicianship into the sound, and that's what became Injustice for All, basically.
I mean, I love it, man. And I remember you guys played the whole thing on tour, and that I did one time see you quote that like midway through the album you'd see people yawning, but I never felt any yawns in the crowd. I felt people going. When you watch that Binge and Purge box set, and you see the Seattle or the San Diego show, or I think the other one's the Mexico, I feel like it really is Metallica at one of the most brutal times in their life as far as playing. What's coming off the stage is I hadn't really seen ever. The impact of that, maybe Back in Black tour, of like, what the fuck is coming off the stage right now? And that tour really, when I look at it even now, James is a lunatic at that era.
Total lunatic at that era.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There was a lot of Jaeger. That was the Jaeger years.
Yeah, Jaeger years.
And I mean, you can almost say that, that energy that comes with drinking Jägermeister just kind of like worked its way into the riff writing.
Absolutely.
You can almost say that. Because like we would fucking jam drunk all the time, wasted all the time, it wasn't really a thing. We'd just do it and it felt good, riffs would come out of it, And so the Jaeger, I think, had something to do with it too, for sure. That weird, fucking crazy, fuck it all kind of energy that comes with drinking Jaeger for like 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, that stuff turns you into a lunatic.
Yeah. I mean, we used to drink it and start fighting each other. and the funny thing is, we totally knew that we would end up fighting each other. We drank it anyway. It's like so funny.
I remember getting thrown down that long stairway at the I-Beam from crowd surfing at Soundgarden's Louder Than Love tour.
Yep, I was there.
And the guy just threw me all the way down the stairs. Mm-hmm. And before he could go around the front to say I was kicked out, I was back in with my hand stamp and didn't feel a thing.
Yep.
Just bottle of Jaeger.
Yeah. That was significant because that was the first time I'd seen Soundgarden, and it's the first time I became aware of the Melvins, and that's the first night I met those guys, and we were really happy to meet them because we were all really big fans.
This is what I always heard. Was that the time where you finally get money and you go, all right, I'm going to buy a house in Pacific Heights on the Justice? Because that's what I heard. Like you guys,
it was the Black Album tour.
It was the Black Album when you bought the Pacific Heights house.
Yep.
So the first one you buy, because I love architecture, and that's what I love to talk to you about. Is not just like metal, but you're into great stuff. You love art, you love architecture, you love to surf, guitar, everything, man. It's a well-bodied man and his art. But when you're looking for a house, you get this money, and you got to think, you and I being in the city, the Pacific Heights was the pinnacle of the ultimate neighborhood in California.
Yep.
And so when you get the money, do you say, all right, I want to live in Pacific Heights, or does it start to happen of like, okay, this is where they're showing me around? Because you were the only guy that stayed in the city.
Yeah. Well, I was born in the city. I lived in the Mission District up until I was 12 years old, and then I moved over to El Sobrani. I started in the city, and I moved to the suburbs, and it was always my thing to return to the city. And so, knowing what I knew about the city, I wanted to live in fucking Pacific Heights. I just wanted to, because it was the side of town that I never was allowed to go to because I was a poor fucking kid from the Mission, bro.
Yeah.
I was a fucking dirt poor fucking kid from the Mission. I would go to these special programs because I went to Catholic school. And these programs would find me at like places like St. Ignatius, which is this very prestigious Catholic high school on the other side of town, where all the rich people fucking lived. And so
now the whole town's rich.
Yeah, now the whole fucking town is
so anyway.
fucking rich. The town turned into San Jose.
Yeah.
But it was pretty amazing for me because I thought, okay, man, the Mission's cool, but I'm gonna live here and I'm gonna fucking be somewhere where I want to be, and I'm going to be somewhere where I'm going to fucking just put my fucking flag down and wave the fucking flag for the fucking freaky musician, who wants to live here. And I don't care if I'm accepted or not. I just fucking wanted to do it because I fucking felt like music got me to that point, and and San Francisco was such a huge thing for me.
Yeah, in our blood.
Yeah, in our blood. And it was like, fuck yeah. It was like planting a flag on the moon, bro. For me, the equivalent, it's just like, yeah, fucking made it here. This is the spot right here.
Yeah.
And I lived there for like in that Pacific Heights place for like 13, 14 years, and it became the fucking party house of all party houses.
Yeah, you would have these epic Halloween parties.
Halloween parties, New Year's Eve parties, just parties for the sake of it, bro.
And you were really a part of San Francisco. You weren't a guy who got famous and disappeared. You were out at like Stone Fox gigs. Yeah. You were hanging at the Night Break.
Well, I was thoroughly just like integrated in the culture of San Francisco, the art scene of San Francisco, the music scene of San Francisco. There was a very vibrant gay and lesbian scene with all these amazing artists in that scene.
Yeah.
And it was a great time to be in San Francisco. There's all this creative energy, and it was just swirling everywhere.
It was amazing.
It was so amazing, and I just loved it. There was always something to do, whether it was music, art, fucking hanging out with creative people. I mean, it was a fantastic time, man. It was a fucking fantastic time, and I kind of became a San Francisco person, like wholeheartedly. I mean, in the 90s, my look changed, and it was because of San Francisco.
Right.
I mean, I cut my hair because that was that was part of the San Francisco look at the time. I started dressing, the same way as all my friends.
Yeah, flamboyant.
Because that's how all my friends dressed, and from the outside looking in, it probably looked really, really strange. This guy from Metallica, all of a sudden, like overnight, he changes his whole look. But it was not like that. It wasn't an overnight thing. It was just taking in San Francisco culture at the time through osmosis, and turning into something that was just very similar to what my peers were doing.
That's an interesting thing to think about, because here you are in a band at that time. You guys, it's like you're growing as humans, and people are living in different areas, and they're getting into different stuff. James is getting into hot rods. He's into bikes, motorcycles, and stuff,
hunting,
and all that. And it's weird when you look at the three of you guys now from when you started, how different you are. Does that bring friction between you guys, or is it just like we don't really see each other except on the road, and this is who we are now as humans?
Well, we've always been amazingly similar and amazingly different, spontaneously, and it's just the dynamic. We have something that we're just completely fully united on. And then we have this other side of us. We're completely different from each other, and I think that's a very healthy thing. I'm all about fucking, balance. And so I thought as artists, from a creative viewpoint, that's where you want to be, man. That is so much where you want to be.
Yeah.
And, over the years, we just accepted that aspect of us, as just being a part of who we are as people.
What I love about you guys is I've never seen a band get so much beat down, but huge fan base. So let's say the no bass on Injustice. That's just a stupid thing that they talk about every fucking time. And after a while, the snare sound on this record, the no leads on that record, the record with Lou Reed, all this dumb shit.
Yep.
And when I look at it as like, these people want humans and art to be only in that little box for their memory only.
Yep.
They don't look at it as like, you know what, this band, if they didn't try to grow as humans and artists, would implode.
Yep.
And the band that you love would be gone. And instead of saying, thank you so much for the Master of Puppets record, thank you so much for Kill 'Em All, they're like, fuck that band or whatever, you know, but they still show up and everything.
Yeah.
But it's hilarious. I'm like, hey, asshole, go get a job wherever you work and work there for 30 years and tell me if you don't go fucking crazy in your cubicle.
It's totally, completely, absolutely true.
Yeah.
You know? We're like anyone else. We need to grow and to change and to check out other roads to see where it might lead us. You know, it might lead us somewhere that we're excited and inspired about, but no one else is.
I don't believe that, though. I don't believe that. Yeah. I believe
it's seemingly like no one else.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah, I get it.
It was always our thing to just like explore, because we're all so creatively restless. I mean, if you catch any of us, you know, alone at any sort of time, we're always thinking about music, always thinking about new riffs, new melodies, new ways to approach stuff. I mean, it's always at the forefront, always has been and always will be, always thinking about what the fucking next piece of music is going to be like when it comes down, because we don't fucking know until we start working on it.
Right.
And you know, at a certain point, we're fucking surprised, going, "Wow, this is an amazing fucking bunch of songs. What should you call it? Injustice for All? Okay, it's fucking crazy. You know, we didn't think it'd turn out like this, but here it is.
Man,
I mean, it's not like we sit out and go, okay, every song's going to sound this way, and as a whole, this is how the album is going to be consumed. Hell no.
Yeah.
No. We don't know until like 7 or 8 months into it. We kind of get a glimpse of how everything is kind of shaping and kind of like, you know, unfolding again. And so a lot of times we don't know what the outcome is going to be like. Sometimes it's like we're like, whoa, this is it. This is what it is, and we just have to fucking, you know, just go with it, you know. But at the end of the day, it's you know, a lot of people don't like to be challenged. At the end of the day, people like their band to be exactly the way they want them to be, and at the end of the day, we're all human, and we can't be static like that.
Yeah, you can't.
You got to move around, just, you know, for the sake of fucking survival. I mean, you know, human beings, they just need to move.
I think you guys as a band have done some of the coolest shit that I've ever seen. I've got to see a lot of things going back to, I talked to you about it, the 2 nights at the Phoenix Theater. I recently interviewed Tom Gaffey, the guy that runs the Phoenix Theater. We went through that whole 2-night process. I own the shirt from the gig.
Yep. That was the very first show of the Black Album tour.
Exactly.
And we knew that, you know, the Black Album was different from Injustice for All, and we were all fucking nervous as hell because we had no idea how our fans would react to it. We knew that there was some stuff that was very radio friendly, but we didn't know if radio was going to pick up on it. So we were fucking very nervous at that show. It was the first show of our new album, of completely different songs and sound as opposed to our last album, Injustice for All. And we were just worried that it was just like, again, too much to like dump on people. But, you know, now looking back through history, it was like we had nothing to worry about.
Oh, my God. Sad But True could be one of the most brutal songs you guys ever wrote. And for Wherever I May Roam, that video is the ultimate road video.
Yeah.
I was there both nights, And so you've done cool things. You did that. I also went to the gig you did at the Will Turn for Flea's school. I went when Bob Rock played. You guys wanted to get out for St. Anger in that shit bar on Polk Street.
Yeah, was it called Bob's or Bill's or whatever?
What is it? It starts with a B, and I couldn't remember it. Bruno's or something?
No, that wasn't Bruno's.
Yeah.
It was Bob. I can't remember. It started with a B.
It was 100 degrees out. A rare, weird night in San Fran where it was like 100.
Yes, it was
Bob Rock on bass.
Fucking hot. Yeah.
Wow.
It was crazy. And Jason showed up for a second too. That was weird.
Oh man.
Yeah.
But the greatest thing ever that you did was the 30-year anniversary, and I went to those shows, and that night I said to myself, this is the greatest band of my generation. And as I watched the heart up there of what was going on, of bringing Merciful Fate and bringing Rob and, just all your influences, and then bringing all the old players, it was... It definitely brought tears to the eyes, and
it was a very, very, very cool thing. It's probably one of our best experiences as far as celebrating time that has passed, for sure. And it's weird. When we brought Ron McGovney and Dave Mustaine on to play, those shows, something happened, and it really just improved our relationship with those guys tremendously, especially with Dave. After those shows, Dave's whole attitude toward us just fucking turned around.
Yeah, because even St. Anger, some kind of monster movie, he's still got that. Yeah. That's a full brutal attack. You think after that he's going to be cool, but no, it was still kind of weird. He's like, fuck them or whatever. But later, after this show, that's a serious family reunion. Yeah,
so, something happened, and just our relationship with him just completely, totally changed and got much, much better. And, I think what had happened was he actually found some closure by coming up on stage and playing with us. And I remember my attitude was, Dave, play whatever you want, man. If you want to take all the fucking solos, I'll play rhythm guitar. It's no big deal to me. And I remember him looking at me going, he was just like looking at me going, okay, but I can tell that was not what he was expecting to hear from me.
Right.
And when we actually played, and I remember just like standing next to him, going up to him, like he's like ripping a solo, and I'm like playing. It was a moment for the both of us, and all of a sudden, all that shit, all that fucking bad vibes, all that schism, all that shit talking didn't even fucking matter anymore. It didn't fucking matter anymore. And, as a result of it, I mean, we're all friends still.
That's wild, man.
I mean, from that point on, we went on to do the Big Four.
The Big Four, dude.
And that was, a great thing, for as far as all of us just kind of like bonding.
Yeah.
And it kind of really fucking established and really just like vindicated all of us as just people who just love this fucking music and had a passion for playing it, and took that passion everywhere we went.
It's amazing. Yeah. I know you're a horror film guy, and I'm going to talk about two of the greatest, I feel, just for me, films of all time in the horror genre would be The Omen and The Exorcist.
Oh, yes.
I think
two great ones.
And then for a third for me, just as wacky, would be It's Alive.
Yeah, that's a good one, too. That baby's just so crazy.
He's so crazy. Do you think, as far as, because The Exorcist was up for Academy Awards back then and everything, it could be the greatest, scariest film ever, I think, because as you're growing up, you believe, you coming from a Catholic school and stuff, that maybe could happen.
I mean,
right?
That was the most frightening thing for me as a Catholic schoolboy, seeing this horror movie that had Catholicism running all throughout it. I saw a priest. in that movie, I saw priests fucking every day. You know, they're doing prayers, all these different types of prayers throughout the whole movie. I was familiar with all those prayers, you know, being a Catholic schoolboy. The whole concept of heaven and hell and like Satan coming to get you. I mean, you know, that was the message of the film times a fucking million. And, you know, as a child, you believe in all that stuff wholeheartedly because you're surrounded by believers. You know, you're going to church.
Of course.
You know, you're around nuns and priests. You know, we're praying like once in the morning and then once in the afternoon. And there's also Bible study, prayer study, confirmation. I mean, the culture, I was thick in that culture. I was so deep in that culture. And to see a part of that culture just be taken and being so fucking, you know, turned around into like the most ultimate worst thing that could happen to you as a Catholic. And then seeing that on the screen and also being a believer in all this stuff, it was too much for me to handle. I was so overwhelmed by it as a 12-year-old kid that, you know, I couldn't sleep with the lights off for like 6 months.
I know.
I could not. I mean, and I knew the devil was coming for me because I was a bad Catholic schoolboy. I was one of the worst Catholic schoolboys. And all my Catholic school friends who might still be out there, who might be listening to this, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, my God, man. That film's a masterpiece.
It is. And I agree with you. I mean, I have not been more afraid from watching a movie as I have been from watching The Exorcist. And whenever it's on, I force myself to watch it.
Yeah.
Thinking that, you know, to quote Beetlejuice, it just keeps on getting funnier and funnier. But that's not the case. It gets scarier and scarier. But then I catch things here and there, you know, little bits of like dialogue or like little film things that make me want to watch it, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, the whole concept of Pazuzu at the time scared the shit out of me. But, you know, if you really like go through the backstory of Pazuzu, he was just some wind demon. He wasn't. There's way more fucking serious, scarier demons than Pazuzu. Seriously.
It's funny because part 2, The Heretic, I remember that came out and I went and it was so fucking rotten. I was like, awful. What the hell is this?
And then Exorcist 3 came out and it showed some potential.
Yeah.
You know, and but you know, I didn't think that it was, you know, what it should have been. But I have read since then that there's this thing, fan edited movies where fans go in and they re-edit horror movies and change the complete plot around and add scenes that weren't in there. And I heard that the fan-edited version of Exorcist 3 is supposed to be amazing.
Oh, that's incredible somebody does that.
That's been going on for like 7 or 8 years
That's
now.
like someone putting bass on your Injustice for All online.
Exactly. It's the exact same thing.
I'm so glad you guys didn't do that when you reissued the box set, too.
I actually was pushing for it.
You were?
I was, because I just felt that, you know, it would be a good thing to do, but... no, it didn't happen. You
ever talk to Jason at all? Do you see him around?
You know, I think the last time I saw Jason, you know, he was doing really well. I mean, you know, he was in better health because he had neck problems.
Yeah, he did.
And you know, Jason, he really just loves to just sit around and play music, man. And I know that that's what he's doing. He's he's in Walnut Creek just playing music and with whoever he wants to play. Yeah. And, you know, more power to him.
Yeah, yeah.
I heard he's into this whole Americana thing now. And so, you know, that's great because he was always kind of into that kind of stuff. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I went through that whole thing in the 90s where I, you know, once I found Wilco and Sunvolt and all that stuff. And I was like, wow. And then you start going backwards. You get into Springsteen and all that stuff. Yeah, I like Sunvolt quite a bit. Yeah, really good. We're sitting here the day after the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame,
And of course, I don't really like to waste much time on this every year because it feels like Groundhog's Day. It's like, who the fuck's singing the Super Bowl? And, who didn't get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? But as much as you want to argue, of course, Priest or Maiden or whatever, for no Motorhead, it is pretty disturbing.
Yeah, it's just like I really think that when things like that happen, it might be a generational thing where maybe some of the older people just don't get it.
Yeah.
They just don't fucking get it. They don't see
the impact,
the range of influence, and the impact and the inspiration that certain bands have. They don't hear it because maybe they're part of a different generation, and we're told that vocals sung like that are bad, but they're not. They're fucking just another type of vocal, you know? And, recordings like that have no merit, and we got to admit, some of those Motorhead recordings are fucking so beautifully raw.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, for those kind of people, Motorhead is a little bit of a bitter pill.
Yeah,
and the comprehension of it is kind of, it could be a little bit better comprehended, and I think that's the problem. Is that it's merely kind of a generational thing. As much as I don't like saying that, because I think if it's good music, it's gonna transcend generations, but then at certain times, there's just like people are closed off from it from the get go.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
Yeah.
And, it's just one of those things that just happens.
Well, it's like one of those things. Like, I love Nine Inch Nails, but you can't put them in before Kraftwerk, Gary Newman, or Devo. Yeah. I mean, that's the ground zero of Nine Inch Nails.
If it weren't for those bands, where would Nine Inch Nails be? And it's so that way with so many other bands too.
Absolutely.
I mean, Thin Lizzy, fucking hell.
Thin Lizzy.
I mean, Jesus Christ, there's such a huge influence with me and all my friends, and all the bands that they're coming up the same time we were, and they're still not in the fucking Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And again, maybe it's generational. I don't know. Maybe they just didn't sell enough fucking albums. Sometimes it feels like you have to sell a certain amount of albums before they could even consider you, which is like, I think, a fucking
that's ludicrous.
Big piece of shit too.
Yeah. Also with Thin Lizzy, I mean, they make the radio of the last 40 years is part of the problem. They play 2 Thin Lizzy songs.
Yeah.
And you're going like, come on, dude. Even Sirius XM, which I love, and I dream of having my show on there, they play the same 2 fucking Thin Lizzy songs. I go, wait a minute, you're a satellite radio. You should be digging deep tracks.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you play AC/DC, you should be playing Overdose.
Yeah.
You should be playing Big Balls or stuff, or that kind of stuff. It's
Night Prowler.
Yeah, it's like, what are you doing? You know, it's I don't know. So
again,
yeah.
Sometimes it's just like it's just convenient to go to these songs that everyone knows.
I get it. I get it.
And sure, but take a chance.
Take a chance, man.
Dig a little bit deeper. Fucking, challenge the listener a little bit. I think, even though I know that a lot of people get uncomfortable whenever they're being challenged. There are a lot of people out there who just love finding out new shit.
Perfect example of your band when you challenge your fans.
Absolutely, man. And boy, have we challenged them. Sorry, guys.
I still think to this day, I can't believe that Lars does not get any glory to this day for the battle of Napster. Maybe it was a tough time for the band or whatever, but what happened was exactly really what was going to happen. People and it's happening in comedy, and it's going to be happening in movies where people just expect art free. Yeah. They don't even understand what it takes to be. There's Metallica. And you guys were never battling over you were just battling over everybody of like, hey, man, you got to watch out for this.
Yep.
And it's a weird thing. And I always said, and I'll say it to this day, fuck yeah for that guy, man. I love Lars for speaking up for that, because it's frustrating for a guy like me who was making a living playing music, and then it just went away because you go, hey, you want to buy a CD? And they go, oh, no, my friend burned it for me, man. It's great. We love it.
Right.
And it is a tough subject, and it's been with the band since the day it happened, but I just wanted to put that out there.
Well, the amazing thing now is back then, people were saying 20 years from now, we're going to look back and say, God damn it, we did the right thing. But when people were saying that, thinking that back then we were actually going to make a difference, we didn't make a difference. We did not make a difference. It happened.
Yeah, yeah.
And we couldn't stop it because it was just bigger than any of us. It was just bigger than any of us.
Right.
This trend that happened that fucking sunk the fucking music industry. There was no way that we can stop it. I mean, it was just a perfectly human thing that just happened. And, what had happened was all of a sudden it was just more convenient to get music, and it was less convenient to pay for it.
Yeah.
And
pretty bizarre, right?
Yeah, there you have it. I mean, for me, it's like it was kind of like a leveling factor.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, all of us were brought back to like the minstrel age now, where musicians, only source of income is actually playing.
Yeah.
And it's like that nowadays, except that a lot of these bands and artists aren't really playing. They're fucking they're pressing play or something.
That's fucking weird, right?
Yeah, but there are a lot of bands who actually fucking play their instruments and have to play to just still be a band and still fucking survive. And that's cool because it really separates who wants to do this and who's just here for the fucking pose.
Yeah, you're right. It's like comedy. We're on the second wave, they call it, of comedy. It's huge, bigger than ever. But it'll be interesting to see when the wave goes down who still wants to do comedy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We'll see who's out there every night writing new jokes and trying to grind and stuff.
Yeah, you'll see who's passionate about it and who's really into it for the art of it.
Yeah.
And then you'll see who's not so passionate about it and into the commerce of it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, maybe things might change. Maybe all of a sudden people will start to prefer CDs or whatever format, as to what's available now.
Right.
Who's to say? I mean, it changed all so quickly back then. It could fucking change just as quickly now.
You guys had 1 billion streams this year? Was that?
Yes, that's crazy.
That's fucking unbelievable.
Yeah. When I read that, I thought, that's just hard for me to to fathom.
Yeah.
In this day and age, 1 billion streams. I mean, I can fathom 1 million albums sold or CDs sold, but 1 billion streams, it's hard for me to fathom. What's that look like, and what does that seem like?
That's insane.
I just know that it whatever it is, it's an accomplishment.
Yeah. Are you still with Q Prime?
Yeah.
You guys, I was saying this a couple weeks ago, could have the greatest managers of all time. We did. I don't know. I don't know personally, but I've never hear Q Prime robbed us, man.
Yeah.
They took our money and they fucking. It's like you've been with them since back in the day, and you're still with them.
Yeah, and a lot of the reason for that is they believe in music. They believe in artists. They believe in bands going out there and taking the music to the people, and they do what they need to do to facilitate all that, and they don't fuck around. They don't take shortcuts. They won't go the more muddied route because it might be easier. They know that to achieve lasting success, you gotta fucking work for it and work hard, and it just doesn't come overnight. And so what they do is they pair themselves up with artists who realize that and who are fucking willing to work and willing to fucking stay up that extra hour, willing to go that extra mile, ready to sacrifice that last bit to fucking find real fucking results, real success. They realize that they work with those kind of artists the best, and we happen to be one of those types of artists.
That's amazing.
And I think the criteria for Q Prime is exactly that. Finding people who are just willing to fucking just do whatever they can for the music. Cliff Bernstein, he's amazing. He's been in the industry for so fucking long, and he's been so good at finding likewise people who are so fucking passionate. I mean, he signed Rush.
Well, I know.
He fucking signed Rush. He signed the Scorpions. He Def Leppard. I mean, it's just like the list goes on. The list goes on. Shania Twain.
Yeah.
Fucking Eric Church.
Oh.
I mean, it goes on, and all these artists and bands, their bands are just fucking ready to fucking put their head down and work and work and work and get results.
Yeah. He's like the Dave Becky for comedy. Dave Becky's like the ultimate comic manager.
Totally.
His guys are just epic.
Yeah.
Could you ever do a record with Fleming again, you think?
I don't know.
It would be interesting to see.
It would actually be really interesting to see because so much time has passed, and we've changed so much since then that actually it might be an interesting thing to kind of like look into and see if there's anything there. I actually like that prospect.
I think it would be so metal for you guys to go, all right, here it is. We're going to go in with Fleming and we're going to do a record in 4 weeks.
Yep.
Old school, back up against the wall. Let's see what the fuck happens.
Yep. Actually, that would be kind of amazing.
I mean, you got nothing to lose at this point in your career.
Well, the funny thing is, like, I've been through a lot of therapy, a lot of counseling, rehab, and all that stuff. And one thing that they tell you is that you are every age that you've ever been. So inside of you you're still that 12-year-old. You're still that 19-year-old. You're still that 38-year-old.
Yeah.
It's all in you still. So hearing that, it's like, okay, if that is the case, maybe coming and saying, hey, Fleming, let's just turn into a bunch of 20-year-olds again.
Yeah.
That'd be a really interesting thing, bro.
I think it'd be pretty wild to see.
Yeah.
Wild to see.
I mean, that's different from, okay, what were you thinking of when you wrote Master of Puppets? Yeah, which was the Rick Rubin's route for us during Death Magnetic.
Right.
And it got results. We would think, oh, what would we do? But this is different. Actually going in with Fleming and going, hey, let's just be all those 20-year-old fucking fuckers that we were in that time in Copenhagen, and let's just be that and see what happens.
I think it'd be wild.
I like the concept. Thank you, Dean.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to mention it to the other guys.
Yeah, they're gonna go like, get the fuck out of here. Anyway, we're gonna go do this record for 4 years now.
Yeah, exactly, and $4 million.
Listen, man, I cannot thank you enough. I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours.
Well, we have history, man. That's the funny thing.
We really do, and some of my greatest memories in life are from your band, and I cannot thank you enough for your music, your guitar playing, the band, everything you guys did. I always look at it as your band's the type of band to where I go like, okay, if I make it, I'll do something cool like Metallica did. I'll go to the Fillmore and I'll do a live comedy record. Yeah. If I make it, I'll, like when you guys did the Lemmys, this kind of shit is just monumental and I think needs to be constantly reminded of the history of this band and all the cool shit you've done, 40-year anniversary. Are you going to do anything for it?
Oh man, when is that? Oh, that's next year.
Yes,
Holy
yeah.
shit! I don't know. I think
You
we
can't
might,
top what you did, which sucks,
well,
man.
well, you know, I don't know. We'll just see what happens.
Yeah.
But I mean, just to like comment on what you just said.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that we've always tried to do and always strived for was to just do something different from what we had done previously. It's fucking. It wouldn't matter if if it was something like weird, like fucking changing the snare sound.
Yeah.
Just the thought that knowing that going into it, this is different from what we did last time. That would feed us, fucking covering, doing cover songs. We always felt that it wasn't right to like just do a carbon copy of something. We always felt we had to like fuck it up, put our own personality into it, make it different, make it so that it's a different thing to offer the world, really.
Yeah.
Because why would you just repeat something that someone already else did? And that's been kind of like the thinking, just like doing something. Trying to do something that no one else has done.
Yeah, well, you've done that all your career, man.
Well, sometimes we just fucking like fall into it,
Yeah.
And we've been extremely lucky that way of just like falling into it. And even the way the band is and the band dynamic is just so different from other bands. It's just like I look at all these other bands and they're just so different from us.
Oh yeah.
In fact, the one band that I can see kind of like parallels in attitude and just their approach and their work ethic and just trying to do stuff different every single time are the Stones.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I see a kinship with them.
I saw when you guys played with them at Pac Bell.
Oh, bro, that was epic.
Dude,
that was like
that was a fucking night, dude.
Yeah, for me, that was like a fucking life accomplishment.
Yeah.
Playing with the Rolling Stones.
Unbelievable, right?
Because I'm a big Stones fan.
Yeah.
I think Keith Richards.
He's a god.
Yeah, Keith Richards and Mick Taylor. And Ronnie Wood. I mean, I love everything they've done.
Can't You Hear Me Knocking is a masterpiece.
So great. I mean, that era of the Stones. Just just brilliant. Sticky Fingers, for me, is my favorite Stones album. Everyone's always talking about Exile, but for me, Sticky Fingers is
that's what I say. I say it all the time.
Oh, man. It's just like, there's no album like Sticky Fingers, man.
You know what I've been going crazy on lately? Emotional Rescue.
Yeah,
Put that
great.
fucker on again.
Yeah.
Listen to Dance Part 1. Listen to Emotional Rescue. Listen to that weird kind of New York disco coming out of the speakers, and it's so authentic. And then
does that have She's My Little Rock and Roller?
No, that's on
Tattoo You.
Yeah, Tattoo You. That's Tattoo You is a masterpiece.
Yeah, I like Tattoo You.
I love Tattoo You. Some Girls.
I love Some Girls.
It's incredible,
Some Girls are so
dude.
fucking great. And I have a connection with Some Girls in that it was the first Stones album that I actually saw released, and I actually went down to the store and bought it as it was released. And it was a great fucking album.
I remember KFRC just rocking it. Dr. Donald D. Rose or whatever.
Yep.
Every morning they play Miss You.
Yeah.
And on the way to school, I'd be like, oh, this is the bomb coming out of that AM radio. 610 KFRC, dude.
KFRC. Yeah, well, bro.
And KOME, man.
KOME,
Dennis Erectus. How crazy is that guy?
Yeah. And there's Camel.
Remember Camel?
Cameo.
Mm.
Yeah.
KSJO. We had some rock radio, dude.
Like extreme
Right?
rock radio. It was great.
Yeah.
And in the late 70s, they were playing the best of 70s hard rock on the fucking radio.
Oh man.
And for me, that era of music was so inspirational because, at that time, my ears were just so open to like anything that was just like loud, fast, hard. And there was a lot of it back then. And it was all just so different. All the bands were so unique to each other. You didn't have like these genres of bands that kind of all sounded similar back then. you just didn't have that. That was something that came in the wake of all those bands.
Yeah, you could hear Earth, Wind, and Fire, then you hear the Stones, and then you're going to hear Santana, all in like 10 minutes on the radio.
Yeah. Oh, it was crazy back then.
It was crazy.
It was nuts. I mean, it was a super great time for music. Absolutely.
You guys are off now. Of course, James went into rehab, but you're taking the summer off? No tour?
We have the summer off. We have shows that we have planned in South America that are going to happen in a couple months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But,
are they announced?
Yeah.
I tell you what, I can't, like I said, I could talk to you forever, and we're in this Maidwarren, this rock and roll mecca of just T-shirts, and coming from you guys who had some of the greatest artwork of all time. Pusshead is just had created some masterpieces for you guys, and I look around in here and I just see, I see Ride the Lightning artwork. Of course, my favorite is Doris and the Injustice.
Yeah.
That's my favorite artwork and stage and all that. And I can't thank you enough. And bringing the guitar and talking to me on this Thrash January, dude.
Yeah.
Thrash January. What is your favorite thrash record out of the Bay Area?
Out of the Bay Area?
Yeah.
Oh man, there's actually quite a few of them.
Yeah.
But hey man, Bonded by Blood. It's so fucking good.
It's so good.
And I'm really attached to it and connected to it, and I just love Paul Bailoff. I wish he was still around.
I do too.
When I watched that Murder in the Front Row, I cried, and those tears were for Paul, because I fucking miss him.
I know.
What can I fucking say? I fucking miss that motherfucker and all his funniness and all his extremes, and just like, he was a really warm guy too. If you're able to see the warm part of Paul Bailoff, he could be actually very, very tender. And, I kind of love that part about him, because he'd break it out when you least expect it.
Yeah.
And you were like, is this the same guy? Is this the same fucking guy? It is the same guy. And he's actually, getting to me with this weird tenderness thing.
To watch that Studio 54, I must have watched it probably 1,000 times. Slayer, Venom, Exodus, just to watch that, when they're lighting the Saturday Night Fever poster on fire. It's funny because at the same time, I worship Saturday Night Fever, and I love that whole New York Studio 54 disco era. So I was the guy that loved both of it. I was like, don't burn that poster. It's great. But also kill posers.
Yeah, totally.
Thank you so much, man.
Cheers, bro. Thank you, Gene.
I hope you come see some comedy.
Well, hey, man, just let me know. Fuck.
Oh, yeah. Where are you living now? You're in Hawaii?
I'm in Hawaii, I'm in the Bay Area. I'm down here in LA a lot, just like doing various little projects for people here and there. It's like, I'm kind of like, I'm not really in any one place anytime very long.
That's cool. That's cool. It's nomad vagabond.
Yeah, exactly. It seems like I'm never in a place more than 2 weeks.
Wow.
And that's just how my life is. And I'm totally fine with it, because it's just, just part of my life.
Well, I got to get you down to the Comedy Store.
Yeah,
come down.
for sure.
We got to get Mark Maron to see that goddamn fucking greenie.
Oh yeah.
If he could see that, if we could set that up one day. He lives in East Hollywood, right here in LA. But if he could see that guitar, it would mean the world to him. And me.
No problem.
And me. Yeah.
It isn't a problem.
I'm going to set it up, because I tell you what, you don't understand how much this guy loves Peter Green. It's his life, and Mark Maron is a fucking beautiful human. So
right on.
To be able to show him that, it would move him.
Right on.
Thank you.
All right, cheers, bro.
I love you, man.
I love you too, bro.
There you guys go.
What was really amazing is I just met Zach Starkey not that long ago, and his favorite guitar player is Peter Green.
Wow.
And so the first thing he did when I walked into the room is he pointed a drumstick at me and said, "You have Peter Green's guitar."
I do have one question for you.
What's that?
Will you guys ever go back to the amps on the stage? Do you feel the difference of that? What are those called? They're like the digital processing heads now.
Yeah, the fractals, the modeling, all that stuff.
To me, There's two things about Metallica I always miss, and one is straight off the stage. When this band comes straight off the stage, and the last time I really felt it was at the Will Turn, man. We opened with Creep and Death, and I was like, what the fuck? And then I miss actual amplifier movement of
pushing air
from a lot of bands.
I miss that too. You know, it's again sometimes convenience trumps practicality.
I get it.
And so you know, I have to say I fucking miss having fucking stacks on stage, bro, because that was, for me, a cool thing, seeing a band, especially a band that I like, a small venue, and you can fucking sit in front of the fucking amps and feel the guitar in real fucking time, complete analog connection. I mean, I miss that. I fucking miss it so much.
I mean, when you look at Screaming for Vengeance tour and you see that stream of amps.
All those Marshalls, man, epic.
And the way the fucking sound's coming off of those.
Yes.
Just KK Downing with the flying V on the center. You're going like, what?
Amazing, man.
Come on, dude.
Yeah.
So anyway, I had to ask you that because I always wondered that. Thank you so much.
All right, man. Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Make sure you follow him on Instagram and look at this beautiful guitar. He posts a lot of photos of it, and he just posted. Ross took great photos of him at Abbey Road with it, and I can't thank you guys enough for loving the Thrash January theme of Let There Be Talk. This was a dream guest, and it's just fucking amazing day for this show and everybody that listens to it. See ya.